Salutations and welcome to Token Minority Report on Unsafe Space. I'm your minority, Beverly J. Clark, and today is Thursday, June 9th, 2022, so happy birthday to Johnny Depp. Hope you like all that, those millions of dollars that you got from Amber Heard, so that's a good birthday. And boy howdy, what a week I've had, and I am really wanting to vent this out, so I'm going to go ahead and bring on my co-host, the ever-lovely Angelfish, Alex Maselli.
Angelfish? I like that.
I know. I'm feeling angelfishy today. How are you doing?
All right. You know, it's funny you mentioned Johnny Depp. He's not getting any money from her. Did you know her net worth is in the negative?
I thought so. I thought so. I thought, like, after I said that, like, I think I briefly saw something about how she doesn't have money, so that's not happening, but he already has millions of dollars, so
I don't think it was about the money in the first place.
Yeah. It was mostly about, like, the
Setting the
terribleness
record
and
straight.
Yeah, I would get that. So either way, I think he's still enjoying millions of dollars. So
Yes, he is actually.
And it's still his birthday, so win-win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of hilarious that she's worth nothing.
Like literally has debts.
Yeah.
Like I think in a million at least.
My gosh.
In debt. Yeah.
Wow.
And I know, like, a lot of people are like, well, how do you make that much money? She made a lot of money and had a settlement for her divorce too, and be in debt. And it's like, well, when you're that rich, there are a couple of answers to that question, and none of them are pretty.
Yeah. And some people just really aren't good with handling money, though, and especially those who like get like lottery winners and stuff too, who have nothing though. That'll be like, I don't know what to do all this, and they spend it all. And some people I feel like are just kind of more born spenders and born savers, and because I'm a born saver and I hate spending money.
I am too. Like when I first became like an adult, I did not know the value of money. Like I don't think most people do when they first become an adult. And then I learned it, and I was like, I am saving all my money all the time. And I do I like research and I learn about finances and stuff like that. And I'm very careful now. Although I know, like, our crowd is probably saying, Alex, you need to get into cryptocurrency, and they're probably not wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. My thing about cryptocurrency is that I like having physical stuff too. So it just, even if it's a good idea, I don't know. I hear back and forth of like whether it's good or bad, but even then I'm just like, I feel weird about it only being digital.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think just growing up poor, then you just kind of are also like, that's again though too, sometimes you might be like, oh, if you get a lot, then you spend it. But I think I've always just never had a lot. So then I save like the little that I do get. And then I can buy stuff sometimes, and I can splurge on something or another though, because like I've saved it. But then I understand it's being a little bit more valuable. But I don't know, even when I was young, though, not really understanding whether we were poor or not, I just also always like saving money. So, and I like to iron my money to keep it crispy. And
oh my God, that's a hilarious habit to have. My God, you can't even get me to iron my actual clothes.
Oh, I don't do that. It's just the money. I don't like have wallets that are always long, so the dollars don't fold because they need to stay straight. And but I don't iron anymore, but I used to. And even I think for like my 21st birthday or something, my friend got me an old iron that she got from like a yard sale or whatever, because she knows I like to iron money. Hello, Raphael. Hello, Silverlock. Hello, JB. Hello, Johnny Boy Quickdraw. Johnny Boy says, pro tip, you can quickly grow your savings by adding other people's money to it. Okay. And if you do it without asking, you're skipping a step too. So you just take it. I think that works. Raphael says cryptocurrency can go up in smoke overnight. Yeah, that's what I know. Like a lot of it, you need the digital side of things. So I'm also kind of paranoid that like in the event something happens that there's no longer the digital aspects of things at all. Like that's extreme, but I'm also just, or you have to save the key, the stuff.
The thing is, but like, I mean, the American dollar is not exactly safe anymore either.
No, that's why
So
I'm
like,
like
I mean,
gold. I'm getting
yeah,
into gold and silver.
yeah.
Like that's seems safer and like it's hard gold because it's so small and it's like worth so much and like so you have to like break off like here's just a little granule and I'm buying my groceries with that for like the next month and so like it's not as
Yeah.
feasible using when you're gonna like spend stuff but just to kind of have and it looks cool so
So you're like, was it Ron Swanson? You, do you not let anyone know where your gold is?
oh yeah no so I'm not gonna say anything about that though I do love Ron Swanson he's a good man. William Brown says ironing the money makes dollar bill origami easier. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've done it enough. I love origami, but I don't. I guess it's the Asian part of me. But I don't do it enough. Okay. So I want to vent to you real quick well, there aren't many people here and they don't care. Got a lot of animal stuff to talk about. Actually, we should do housekeeping first. This Sunday's book club, right? That's the 12th.
Yes, it is.
This Sunday, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. And I think I didn't realize how his name was pronounced. I don't remember if you said it at one point or at least I just looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a V sound.
It is, yeah, Danielewski.
So
I don't know. I mean,
that.
I saw him in person
Ooh.
at a book reading when he was doing his tour for The Familiar Volume 2, I want to say, Volume 2. I bought all his books later, but that day I only had House of Leaves and I got him to sign it. So he was introduced and so like and said this is how you say my name. So like that's how I know how to say his name.
Okay, that's cool. I don't even know what the Z. I don't remember. I probably looked it up at some point, but I don't even remember what it stood for. But
I don't know either, actually.
I've never. The only reading I've been to was what's his name? David Sedaris. He's hilarious. Like, I mean, I love his writings and just what he reads them too. Like he is. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, you are the kind of person I pictured when reading this.
I've been to a lot of readings, not since 2019 though. Obviously, like a lot of things shut down. But I went to readings maybe 3 or 4 times a year at least with authors. And so I have this two stacks of books all signed by the author.
Wow.
And some of them I got when I was in college because they would bring writers there because I was in creative writing. So yeah. One of them was Kevin Brockmeyer. He was really amazing. But then like I met Tia Obrecht. Oh, she was awesome. She was so cool. She did The Tiger's Wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, like I've met a lot of published writers, a lot of debut writers too, actually. And I have multiple stacks of books with their autographs in it. I met Terry Brooks once.
Nerd.
I know. Especially saying I met Terry Brooks.
No, that's awesome though. Yeah, and the readings are like if they're good at the performance side of reading out loud though, then yeah, it can be enjoyable. And I do remember, and I got my book. What did I have? Naked. I think I might have gotten it there of David Sedaris, and he signed it. He signed it with a drawing of an owl, I think, which was kind of too bad because my friend who I went with, she loves owls, and he did not draw one on hers. So I don't know. I'm not sure why that happened, but yeah.
You had a vent, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we keep missing this.
Okay, but again, June 12th, House of Leaves, book club, 12 p.m. Eastern. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my vent. Oh my gosh, it has been a heck of a week. Let me start off with Sunday. I was sliding the barn door closed in the evening, and a bat fell on my arm. Not a baseball bat, the creature of the night bat. And so it fell on my arm, it just thudded and then onto the ground. And I didn't realize what it was. And then when I looked down and saw that it was a living thing, then I shrieked. And then I was like, is it hurt? Because it's not moving. Rabies. I'm going to go grab gloves. So I went to get gloves and then I picked it up and it was still just really slow and it barely moved, but its mouth would slowly open when I was holding it at certain places, and it was kind of terrifying because I'm like, you do look like kind of like a vampire, like, but it had a whole bunch of fangs, so it just like slowly, and I didn't know if it was gonna end up biting me or not, and so I said I didn't know, is it injured or is it going to, or is it just like drowsy because it's daytime? I
Oh
put
yeah,
it in the
that's a good
barn in like
point.
a higher spot that I thought might be like safe because I just didn't know like what do I do with it. And then the next day when I checked it, it was gone. So I was like, okay, either you were okay and you flew off in the night or something ate you. I'm like, either I'm hoping the first thing, but it's hard to tell around here. So that happened Sunday and then Monday and then continuing Monday, they were that we've penned up some bunnies because they're all over the land, and then one, so we have like 5 or 6 in the pen right now. We're still trying to catch others and sell them, and one of them gave birth inside a tote that we had, and so there are like 9 newborn baby bunnies because they're always giving birth, but we just didn't know one of them was pregnant, and so that was already like, okay, we want to make sure they're warm and stuff. That story does not end well, but continuing, I was trying to move the hose later. And Lucy, the rooster, decides that it's time to come over and attack me. So I pin him down to the ground, and Lemon Grab, my boy goose, also thinks now is my chance because he is he always gets chased by the rooster. So then he's always scared. But like now that if we're tag teaming it, he has a chance. So he comes over to attack, but I'm still trying to hold him down and to hold the rooster down. So I like try to like move, but he comes too fast and he just starts wing slapping the rooster. But my hands are still there, so he's just wing slapping my hand, and it hurt. So I don't know if any of you have been slapped by a giant bird before, but its wing. It is painful. So then I eventually have to let go, and then they're like kind of flailing around as the rooster's trying to get away. And eventually I have to just pull the goose off, and the rooster like runs off to the barn scared. And I'm like, at least I felt bad because he was crying, but I'm like, at least they're kind of like evening out. So like, because usually it's the other way. So it's just like, okay. So then Tuesday, probably other stuff happened, but at least my poor ducklings, they're having a tough time because like the one is blind and the other one, we didn't really know exactly what was wrong with his legs, but it's just been getting worse the bigger he's getting. And he wasn't really able, he crisscrosses his legs like really drastically, and it was getting worse. So he wasn't even really able to like stand up anymore and let alone like walk. So even swimming, he crisscrosses. So it was really heartbreaking because I didn't realize how bad it was. So then Wednesday, yesterday, I take them to the vet in Pittsburgh, 2.5 hours away. So I drive all the way down there, and that was also after 4 of those newborn baby bunnies were dead. So I had to shovel them out, and so that was.
You just froze a bit.
Oh, am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So then so at the vet, they said that the blind duck I also named the gimpy duck as Dick Van Duck. Because at first it was funny that he was really like, physically comedic but now it's sad. And then we named the other one Mary Tyler Molt because I couldn't think of a different one. And I'm like, well, they're, paired up in their TV show. And so MTM had, I guess, like the eye is sort of swollen, so we got some medicine for it, and then we got an X-ray for DVD, Dick Van Duck, to see exactly what was going on with his legs. And apparently he is he's dislocated knees in both knees, and prognosis wasn't great. So it was essentially like she was saying that like very like a slim chance that maybe like physical therapy can kind of help, but she was pretty much like, surgery or euthanasia were like the options. But then so I was like, well, I don't he's such a fighter though, like he keeps trying to like stand, like he's really toughing it out and really try, like he'll like use his bill to like stand up and stuff too. So it's just like, you were such a fighter and I love it. Like we're gonna keep trying, like so it's a lot. That's what I've been just really hands-on of like trying to like help him stand and everything. And then, but that was more today. On my way home yesterday, the day gets worse. boyfriend calls, like he gets back home first, and he says that our rooster has been attacked and he is missing all of his tail feathers but one. So it's like usually like big tail feathers that stick out, and it has just one. And he was so raw, like it looked like he got plucked out, like, you know, that if you're gonna eat a chicken, like he plucked out the feathers. So his backside is so raw. And we lost a hen too, so she was just missing. I followed the trail out and to a certain point until I couldn't find it anymore, though. So I think some predator got her, fought with him, and he's so he was like still walking around and stuff, but today now his head has just been hanging really low. So we brought him inside, and because he wasn't eating or drinking, and I've been like using a liquid syringe to try and give him like water and some egg yolk and other vitamin stuff too to help him out, and spraying like this Vetericin on his backside after like I tried cleaning it up, but it's just it's so gross it's weird to see too, like how full of feathers, like when you see a featherless bird and like how much smaller they are. So it just looks like he's missing his back half side. So I'm hoping he gets better and that his feathers grow back. But right now we're just like trying to keep him calm and healing on his own and not worrying about the hens. So we brought him inside, kept the hens in the barn, except they keep trying to escape. Like, no, there's going to be a predator that eats you. Stay inside. Yeah, so it's been an exhausting week so far. And I'm going to ask too, like I was saying beforehand, I want if anyone has like engineering, mechanical type stuff, if you have what I need is, so DVD's legs are crisscrossed. If anyone knows how to like even like 3D printing, so a design for that, because we have one, so like a brace that helps keep his legs apart and but able that he can still like go forward and back motions with it, but like they don't crisscross. Let me know, because I really want something. I'm trying to figure out or like how to like tie, you know, bandage or something around to like help like get it like where we can like keep the legs apart if we like just tie around him or something. And I don't know how to do that yet, but I was trying to like think of ideas today of like what I can do to try and like makeshift something that if we can get him straight. Because like today, the plus side is that like today when I'm like holding him down, he can stand. And then even on his own, he's like trying to do it because he's just like, oh, that's what it's like. That's how my muscle needs to do. So he keeps trying. So that's, like I said, he's a fighter. So he keeps like, okay, I'm going to lean myself up and try and stand. And so he's actually looking better today, of like, because usually he's just like flailing around on his stomach. So today it has been a little bit better with that. And I am much more upset than I am showing right now, though, because I'm compartmentalizing, because if I don't do that, then I'm just going to cry. So, but yeah, so that has been my week.
Oh, God. It's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like living on a farm, but, and then we have cats. And they just like they have hairballs and poop and vomit and stuff too, so they're a mess all the time ever.
Aren't they always?
Yeah. So
like every other day, one of my two cats is vomiting somewhere, either a hairball or everything they ate.
Every morning. Yeah. Sometimes they vomit, I think, for the attention, where it's just like they're vomiting nothing because they're hungry. Like, so they want to feed me. So it's just but then, and that scared me at first, but now I'm just like, now it's normal and I'm whatever. Like I've got other issues going on here too. So it's just like, yeah, you're going to puke up a hairball. You're going to poop everywhere. And so like that, I'm used to all your problems.
Yeah, the cat problems, normal. Although your cats get along, that is actually a benefit.
Sorta. Yeah, I mean, better than yours. Like mine, the girl is meaner, but so they don't hang out really, but they at least like tolerate each other enough. Except when the boy play attacks, like he'll hop on her and just like bite her scruff, and then they fall, and then like she growls, and then she gets up and beats him up and chases him away. But that's just kind of their thing. Like that's normal.
I swear to God, if my two cats didn't have a door between them, they would kill each other, or one of them would kill the other one.
I know that you were trying to rehome the one, right?
I'm still trying to rehome Missy. Like, still
send her out here. Put her as a barn cat and.
I don't know how she would handle the outside, but since I took her inside, I haven't let her go back.
I know our cats, because I'm like, there's too many predators, and the geese too. The geese are mean. So
when Corey escapes, here in Phoenix, there's like 1,000 cats outside.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned. Yeah.
And they keep getting, like, when I used to walk all the time, I swear to God, I saw dead cats in the road.
Oh my God.
All the time. It drove me crazy. It was like, oh, I'm having a good day. Jesus, no, I'm not. Like all the time. It was horrible. It was like one of the best things about no longer like, having a reason to go walk anymore is that I didn't have to see that.
You go outside and see. Yeah. Yeah. Well, with all, yeah, that's so sad. And the other thing too with all this, it's like making me more desensitized. Like the bunnies, we had an issue with the bunnies last year, and so then it was like, I'm crying after each, because there was like some illness that came through, and I'm crying after each one. And eventually I'm like, well, there goes another one that we have to bury or get rid of.
Maybe
And
that's why they have so many babies.
yep, that's exactly. Yeah. Cause they're prey. So they always get eaten and stuff. And,
Yeah.
but I just don't know this HO2 what they're saying, and I don't know if it's bought enough to spam me to hide or leave.
Okay, like you were there for some of my KOTOR live stream last Thursday, and after you left because you were going to bed, I started getting bots, and they had to be bots. Because
Oh right, yeah, you mentioned, yeah.
As soon as I muted one, another one would pop up, and they were saying like the K word and saying yes, and,
Oh yeah.
And it was, I was like, at first, I like some of the stuff that they said, I didn't mind, but then like when they started getting,
I agree with some of these things.
No, when they got to that point, when they were getting anti-Semitic, that's when I started muting them on the channel, because that could hurt my channel. By the way, that is
that you get blamed for other,
exactly. If I didn't moderate that I would get blamed for that. But and also I did it because I was like, dude, I don't want to see that. Like like I'm totally, like, to me it was sort of like, you to be as hateful and mean as you want to on your platform, but this is my channel and I don't want to see this. So I just muted them, and they kept coming back as different accounts over and over and over again, and it was driving me crazy, but not nearly as much as the fight I was having in game, where I kept dying and I kept changing my strategy and failing again and again and again, and I'm going back to it tonight, and I'm like not looking forward to it, because I'm like, I'm already stressed out about the idea of having to do this fight one more time, because it's just too. The problem with KOTOR, so KOTOR is a pretty old game. It's paused combat, and you tell your party members what to do, and then their AI takes over.
Okay.
The problem with that is that they keep changing their targets. So like there's like 6 people in this fight that we have to take out, and there's only 3 members of the party. That's max party in this game. And you have to, and the best way of winning a fight is to maybe stun or freeze other enemies, and then all 3 of them should focus on one enemy to take them out, and then move on to the next enemy, and so on.
But they'll split up, and then
they split up.
Yeah.
So my character, because you have a player character too in this party, does what I tell her to fucking do, but the other 2 just keep. They're like,
they've got minds of their own.
Will I do what you asked me to do? Maybe. And so then I keep.
So do you have to, like, maybe in Pokemon, if you don't level them up, or if you don't get enough badges when you level them up, then they stop listening to you. So maybe you just don't have enough badges in the game.
God, I wish there was a way, but there is no mechanic in this game of making people actually listen to you better. It's just their fucking blanket basic bitch AI, and it's driving me crazy. It really is.
That's why and those things, like, you have to step away. I'm like, I can't do this right now. I'm too frustrated, and come back. Like, I've done that. I mentioned DDR last week. That's happened in college, and then even piano too. Like, if I'm trying to learn something, I'm like, my fingers just aren't listening, and and then I get so frustrated. Like, I can't. Like, I'm getting worse and worse every time I do this. I need to step away.
The last 2 weeks, I had to quit KOTOR relatively like sooner than I would have than I really wanted to, because of the same reason that it was doing that AI thing where I would tell them to stop and they wouldn't stop. And it drove me nuts both times. Like, honestly, that drove me crazier than the bots saying they're anti-Semitic shit. Like, really? And I'm like, I know it's there waiting for me later.
Yeah. Because, like, yeah, you're directly invested in this thing here. Like, no, you're just an annoying person saying stupid stuff, or robot. You're not even real.
Yeah, it's not even real. If anything, it is an attack on the channel, but it's not a very good attack.
Yeah.
You just mute it. Like,
I'm just annoyed.
And just keep muting it.
Keep doing it. Hello, GMan. Welcome. Hey, you're a math guy, so I'm going to compare that to you probably being good at some sort of engineering sort of thing. So you missed out on all of the terrible stuff that's been happening on my farm here. But if you know how to keep a duck's legs from doing crisscrossing and can keep them like going straight of some sort, even for a 3D printer, let me know. For more information, rewind and then watch the explanation. Okay, well, let's get into I guess the topics that the thumbnail topics first, and then you said that there's also some video game stuff that we could talk about, and then there's also that trailer. We have The Boys, season 3. We have finally just going to talk about How I Met Your Father, that no one cares about, but we keep talking about it, so we're just going to get it out of the way.
We don't want to have to say it again.
And then the Vengeance trailer too. I just watched that, the link that you gave too. GMan, what do you mean WTF? I don't know how much clearer I can be about this. My duck's legs are crisscrossing when it tries to stand, and I need it to not crisscross because his knees are dislocated, and I think it's congenital. So I need a way, like, bumper his legs out where he doesn't do that, so he can just be able to stand on his own. Okay. And you know math. There's a lot of math and engineering. I'm just, following the through line. Quit grooming your ducks. I have to. He can't clean it. Like, I have to dry him off and stuff too, because he can't. He's just always so wet. It's a thing. Okay. So
TV shows.
we can. Which one do you want to start off with? I'll let you choose.
Let's do How I Met Your Father, because I just want to get it off the plate.
Get that out of the way.
Now, I watched the first. What's available on Hulu and everything, and
you watched all of them on there.
I watched all of it, and honestly, I wasn't that disappointed with most of it. Like, it's tough. Sorry, you go. No. Like, there were characters I liked and characters I didn't like. I liked the British guy.
I know, Charlie. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I like him.
Adorable.
He is. He's so. It's kind of, he's fish out of water because he's from a peered family or whatever.
Yeah, he's a rich limey.
He's British, and he's from a richer family and is experiencing poverty for the first time. Right. Like, when in the first episode when he went on the subway, he was excited. He was like, "Let's get on the subway! I want to ride the subway. Can we do that?" And then afterwards, he's like, "Oh my god, that was terrible!
Yeah.
Do people do that?"
Yeah.
Him, I loved.
Because he had this dorky charm about where I don't know, where it was just like, oh yeah, like I guess he reminds me of from How I Met Your Mother, where it's like, oh yeah, like you guys are more dorky and stuff. And I think that's my biggest problem, I think, with How I Met Your Father, is that that it doesn't have the, Hilary Duff is the star, for those of you. I assume no one has watched this show but us. So she's the star, and she's the Ted Mosby girl version. Only she's too basic bitch for me, though.
Me too.
And people have online, they compared oh, this is the Lizzie McGuire reboot that we've all been waiting for. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can agree that if I wanted to watch Lizzie McGuire, which I mean I'm sure I would, but that kind of makes sense for more toward this show. But I'm to kind of keep the same, I think no one wanted this, but I really like the idea of How I Met Your Father being from Tracy, whatever, Ted Mosby's future wife, because I love the character, because she was so you know, like, oh, you're this nerdy guy and a nerdy girl that my boyfriend and I have talked about, like, why did he date so many women who like weren't what he wanted? He'd always go after these women that were just like, you're more normal though. Like Tracy is just like, here's this nerd that is very similar to you. Like, yeah, of course you would hit it off. And she would have been fun to watch.
Well, and I think a big part of the problem with Ted Mosby was that he was self-sabotaging with his relationships.
Oh yeah, that too.
Lot.
Oh, for sure. We've talked about that because we have friends like that.
Yeah. So that, like, I mean, that's the show I put on to go to bed at night.
Yeah, I used to too until I can't your voices, like it just brain stays awake. So I just do fan sounds because I just need the actually I think it's like
I used to do music. That was my big thing. I slept to music, but then I did it one night this week. And one of the songs, well, I set my alarms as songs, but they're specific songs. And like one of the alarm songs came on while I was
and then you just wake up.
And I just like I was like out. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I was like, okay, I can't do that again.
But again, if it's lyrics, I can't do that. In songs, but even instrumental, I think it changes too much, or especially if I know it, then my brain is like waiting to hear it too. So I need constant noise. I can't even do like on and off sounds or something though too. Like something comes like it has to be constant, so that way my brain can like, all right, you can shut off. And I need sound at all because I have ear ringing, so I can't have silence because it drives me crazy. Sleeping is very hard for me.
It's hard for me because Missy wants to wake me up every 30 minutes. But I like How I Met Your Mother like a lot. I did a video on it on my channel like a while back. And the thing is though about it is that like I watched it after it was done. I usually do that for TV shows. Most TV shows I don't watch as they air.
Yeah, I hate waiting now.
Yeah, but like I did a video on it, and one of my things about that show, and sort of spoilers and everything, is that I knew that she had to be dead. For one thing, if you're telling your kids the story of how you two met,
you probably would say it together.
Yeah, it would be How We Met. The title in the setup from the first episode says that she's dead.
Yeah, and people did call. I mean, like there are people on that kind of thought it. I don't remember at what point I thought, because I hadn't really thought much about the future, so I was just kind of watching as is.
There's an episode called The Time Travelers, which they pretty much flat out say it, because he says to his kids,
you know what I would do at that moment, you know, like you guys would know what I do. And he goes to her apartment, and then and he's like, we meet in 45 days. I think about that scene a lot, like just randomly. I think about that so much. And then I don't even think I saw it.
It's so intense.
Go ahead.
I mean, to me, it says that like, who do you want more time with? That like, you don't think about wanting more time with someone like
that you're still with.
That you're still with. Yeah.
And that's why I think again, I don't know, because maybe I'm not paying enough attention. There's some things that I'm like, oh, that's really obvious, and I just didn't see coming. And then there are other things where I'm like, oh, I called this thing, and I totally saw that, like, you know, from the beginning. And I think I don't know, like, because I wasn't thinking much about the mother or the end of it. I just thought like, oh, that's so romantic of him that like he wants even another 45 days, but like he's so emotional. And then like looking back on it later on, like, oh yeah, duh. Of course you want another 45 days. She's dead. And then I think about how like, I think they were only together for 11 years. And like, that's so sad. That wasn't much time. And so
yeah, I know. It's sad. See, that's the thing. I think it's very well written. I think that's very well done. There were a couple episodes and a couple of storylines that were just kind of stupid because the show was 9 seasons long. That's going to have some bad writing in it. But when it comes to the difference between How I Met Your Mother and How I Met Your Father, besides tone, which we can get to, but is the framing device. So the framing device of How I Met Your Mother is that he starts the story from the night he met Robin to lead up to the time, and we don't know who the mother is. We don't know who she is for so long.
Right.
But the framing device of How I Met Your Father is that the first episode, she meets, what was it, 4 or 5 guys? I can't quite remember the number.
Yeah, there was
Charlie, Jesse, Jesse's friend.
Oh my gosh, I love him too, but I can't remember his name right now.
The guy she had the date with.
Ian, I think.
Ian, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there might be a 5th one, but I can't quite remember. But anyway, so she met all those guys on the same day, and she says that was the night I met your father, and we don't know who the dad is. And to me, I'm laughing at this framing device because of the fact that I'm like, she's telling the story to her son, who knows whether or not he's fully white or half black.
I know, yeah. It's like, which one could it be?
He knows
who the dad is.
He knows who his dad is.
Well, that's why. So I like the concept of it, just because if they did it a little differently. Like, I like the idea of like, this is the night that it happened, because they even brought in Josh Peck's character, and then they're like, oh, actually we did meet that night, and then they kind of flash back, and I don't mind. Like, I think that's fun to like insert, like, oh,
yeah,
so, but I'm like, you're gonna have to do that every time. And what I think might have worked better is if she went to a lot more places in that first episode, though. Instead, I mean, there were a few, but it was just like, I think if she went to like a dozen, that way, like, you met like, there were so many people, and you're like somewhere in there, and you meet like several black guys, several Indians, several white guys, like, then you're like, okay, well, which one? I already know what my dad's name is.
Oh, you froze a bit.
Oh God, yeah, that's gonna be the internet. Am I back?
Yes.
So I like that. And then and even I think my boyfriend complained that it was just like, oh, why are you doing it from the woman, like from the mother showing it? I'm like, well, they kind of had to do that so that way the audience can not know what the son looks like. So at least we don't know what color he is.
If they showed the kid, adult though he is, and he was half black, we would know that it wasn't like Jesse. Like, we would know that. Right. Or Charlie, we would know. And so to me, I'm sort of like, well, obviously, and also they got Kim Cattrall to play older her. But I don't know. I don't really like her. Like,
no, I know, me neither. I do not.
See, some people didn't like Ted Mosby, though. Like, I know that, like, there were a lot of people who don't like him.
Not a big fan. It's okay. I don't know. Josh Radnor is really good at playing the romantic side of things. So like when he has to get into like, he's giving cheesy speeches and all that too, to like the love interest. Like, I think he's great, but I think he's just not, I don't know, like, he's my least favorite as far as like as performances go of the actors, though. Like, I just don't think he's that great. So, but like, I like the character concept, though. Like, I think he's a fun character. Just like the performance isn't my favorite. So I think it's just kind of like, hey, I don't know. It seems fake a lot of the times, except for the romantic bits. I think he's wonderful at those.
You know what? I feel like there's too many main characters in the cast of How I Met Your Father. Like, I feel like we're looking at too many characters. Like, there's the core 5 of the original. There
are 6 in this one, right? Because it's maybe 7 if you're. I don't remember how. So we've got Hillary. What's Hillary Duff's? Sophie, Jesse, Charlie, the Valentina, the best friend, the Indian guy. What is his name?
I don't remember.
And then his fiance. Is there another one too? And then you have like
the other men who are possibilities.
Yeah, the possible. So I guess like out of the main ones, then 6 compared to 5. I get, but that's how many are in Friends too.
Yeah, maybe.
GMan also says he likes happy endings because it's like Friends but funny. A side note too. Did I even mention Jesse's sister? Ellen.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So then that would be 7.
Actually, so it's 7. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I have. I don't know if I have links at all. But coincidentally, too, Ellen is played by Tian Tran, and I know her personally.
You do?
Yeah.
I find her. It's kind of funny because I thought, oh wow, this character is kind of going to be like that, like let's fill our quotas kind of thing. But then I actually like her the most. She's funny and she's interesting as a character, whether or not she's like the lesbian part of it didn't matter. Like her dating problems are hilarious.
Right. I actually like, so this is, I don't know if my cursor shows up on here, but so Tian Tran is the Asian girl, but yeah, that's pretty much because she performed on main stage at Second City. So then like when I worked the night staff there, and then we got to perform a little bit on stage sometimes too. And she was like, yeah, that's pretty much the character she played on stage. Like they were always funny, but I'm like, that's usually like
she's got one mode maybe.
Is that so she does like the same like movements and like and all that, and she's a lesbian in real life. So
okay.
But
maybe I just like her then.
yeah. Like but so at least like the persona that she puts on stage, like that is what she does for the show. Because I was just like, yeah, that works. I like this is a good character for it, and I love that she and Charlie, the British guy, are which is the second guy from the left, have kind of like a buddy comedy thing going on. So I actually really enjoy that.
I know. I liked that dynamic the best. The person I like the least out of everyone is actually Valentina.
Valentina? Same.
Yeah.
Her
really
voice
don't like her.
Her voice is grating and she's just annoying. Like
she is.
So she's not a likable person. And then it was kind of weird at the one episode, she and Charlie, the end, like she and Charlie are dating, but they split up because she's like, he's the one who doesn't want kids, unlike Robin from the first one. And she's the one, I want a big family. I want all this. And my boyfriend's like, that's so stupid. I'm like, she is Latino or whatever. And so like, it kind of makes sense. Like she comes from a big family, but she's like a super selfish person. So even if she wants, like, why would she want that? Because she's all about herself. So even if she did want it, she would be a horrible mother.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
unless she changes drastically.
Yeah, she would have to change a lot to be a good parent. And maybe she could, like, I'm not going to discount the possibility, but I don't like her. And I think Charlie deserves better, honestly.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. She's just so annoying. I'm like, he's such a sweet guy. And like, and I get you kind of want to have this contrast or whatever, but like, I don't know. Just when you see it, you're like, poor Charlie. Like he should have someone else.
It was funny in the first episode when they introduce her, she's wearing this t-shirt and then she's not wearing pants underneath it. And I thought that was like because she was screwing Charlie in her bedroom.
I thought it was just a night shirt or something. Like,
and then they show them go out and she's wearing
it. Yeah. Like, oh, it's
pants.
A shirt dress then?
It's a giant t-shirt. That's what I would wear to bed in college. I was like, what the hell is that?
I still will do.
And I'm like, she's in fashion, so she's stupid. But then, like, on top of that, in that first episode, when Charlie keeps complaining about New York City all the time and how awful it is there, and she tells him this place is magical, and I'm like, bear in mind, this TV show takes place in 2022, and I'm like, no, it ain't. Like, absolutely not. You're wrong. It's not magical. It's filled with crime right now. I don't know how you guys are walking across this bridge safely.
One thing I'll give them credit for right now, because I didn't even think about like, it's 2022 in New York, the way they're doing it is that it's totally fictionalized. So they don't seem to have any mention about COVID or anything, which I do appreciate, especially because I've been recently watching the sitcom Raven's Home on Disney Channel show, the sequel to That's a Raven from 2004. And now she's a mom. But and the latest season, or I don't know if it's the latest one, but one of the recent ones, they don't directly like talk about it, but there's they're going in, then she gets like, she's a fashion designer and stuff, like, oh, the one celebrity needs masks. And I was like, oh, masks for what? And they don't really describe it. And later on they're shown making like the little face masks. I'm like, oh, because they don't say it. And later on, one character's like, I learned how to braid during quarantine. I'm like, wow. So you were like actually throwing that in there. And I read online that apparently it's the first Disney show to actually like reference it in a way. And I hate it. And I think, don't do that. I think that's stupid. This is fictional. You can say like Disney Channel has had the weird that what was it, Corey in the house, where it was like the daughter, like the weird daughter, the president, whatever, wasn't it The Rock or something? I don't remember. That was a movie. No, mixing up a movie in that show. But it was just like you've had like weird fictional stuff. Wizards exist in that universe and things, though. Like we don't need to have COVID on a Disney show.
Well, I guess my real problem with her saying it's magical is that there's this in Hollywood, there's so much romanticizing of New York City and of LA.
Yeah.
And I think that's bad. I think because first of all, people flock to those two cities and then their lives are crap. And they
think, why is this not as perfect as
it should be?
To be?
Yeah, and they struggle and they get depressed and they fall into really bad situations. And I'm just not a fan of Hollywood perpetuating those two myths over and over and over again.
But I guess again, with it being fictionalized, I would be okay if maybe they showed it in the show. Like I can suspend my disbelief if you create the world like an improv thing. Like if this is how you're saying that the world is, I can do that. And I think How I Met Your Mother was better with Ted saying like, New York's a great place, and they're able to kind of make that seem better. But in How I Met Your Father, it kind of just had this like, well, you're only seeing all the terrible things, and then Valentine is just saying like, no, it's great, and you're like, how like I don't know, like from what we've seen so far, it is not. And I like JB saying, how come they never have to worry about the $5,000 a month rent in shows set in New York? I wonder that too, or even in both series, where I'm like, this apartment is gigantic. Marshall's in law school, Lily's a kindergarten teacher, and Ted is like a low architect in his firm. Like, how are they affording this giant apartment?
Well, and it was funny too, because people bring that up about Friends a lot, because the main apartment, the one on the right, is huge, absolutely huge. They did an episode though where they explained that the apartment is under her like great aunt's name, and so it's rent controlled. So it's at a cheaper price than it should be if she had signed a new lease. So that one they actually answered but the show is 10 seasons long, and expecting everybody to remember that is pretty low.
You can't even get writers to ever remember things that other write. I'm always bothered by that just generally for TV series, when you have different, like I get having different writers, but those writers should know the show before, like what has happened beforehand. Because I hate continuity errors, especially with like characters. And now when you're able to just marathon everything at once, you're like, well, I remember season 2 that this is one thing, but now season 7 saying this other thing, and like, but I just watched this the other day.
Well, that's why a showrunner is so important. Like a showrunner is supposed to make sure that continuity between writers sticks around. The thing is, those that they change showrunners between seasons, and then you lose out. And like the thing is, though, is that there are some shows that have a creator, a big, he's got a plan creator behind them, and they stick around for several seasons if the studio doesn't tell them to screw off. And the continuity is way better on those shows. Like Person of Interest had Jonathan Nolan behind it, way better. Eric Kripke was behind the first like 7 seasons of Supernatural, so that was pretty good. But like short runs of shows are better. Like Two Guys ran Dark Matter for the 3 seasons it was around, and so everything there had some pretty good continuity. I think that's what needs to happen, because those shows are almost always better. Almost always.
That's a good point, because it's like, I mean, I don't expect necessarily that the writer has to, but at least just know, like, or be told like, hey, you need to correct this, like this thing doesn't fit right though. But I guess I'm coming from like, as if I were to write something, like I would want to do enough research to know like, hey, these are the characters, like these are the lives, before and I've done like spec scripts and stuff too, where it was just like, yeah, I've seen like everything and now I'm writing it.
I think you can definitely have different writers and it work relatively well if you have a strong person behind
to help. Yeah.
the story, but I don't think every show gets one, like, honestly. Like, and
So
then also the studio might demand things.
Right, yeah, and that's a big thing too, that you might have to do what they want, which does remind me of The Boys when we get into that. Silverlock says, "Don't watch the new Star Trek then." I have heard nothing but bad things, I think, of the new Star Trek, so,
Yeah.
wasn't
One of the
planning.
bad things I heard is that it's not really like everything in Star Trek was either based on absolute fantasy or really basic science, like stuff people theories and stuff people could read and understand. The Discovery, from what I understand, has something in it that is just really silly and is also possibly stolen from someone's game that they made. And so it's like, I like when I read about it, I was like, I can't get behind this. This is too weird. This is Doctor Who weird. This is not Star Trek weird. Okay.
Star Trek trying to be Doctor Who. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, the only Star Trek I've watched was the original one. Like William Shatner is my fave. And I once met George Takei when I was an intern on the Nickelodeon show Super Ninjas. So, and the first thing he said to me was, "Oh my." So that was, and I don't think it was intentional. I think he was just kind of like responding to something because my friend was there and introducing us. But yeah.
He literally said,
I mean, I know he's super woke and stuff, but I do love him as like a lot of the characters that he does. Like he does voice acting and certain things, and I love him on those. But I separate the art from the artist when I can.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll say too, as far as actors go on How I Met Your Father, I do like, so one, I know Tian, and then I still can't remember the guy's name, the best friend, but the Indian guy, but I did like him. He was on the show God Friended Me. So, and I really, and I like that. And it was about a guy, this atheist whose dad is a pastor, and but then God on Facebook friends him, and he keeps sending him like, hey, like these people, like, I mean, he doesn't know why, but he gets like sent friend requests, like suggestions, but they're always people who he needs to help in some way. So I mean, it was a good feel good thing. So, and I love that. But so he was the best friend on there. So he's just a good best friend actor. So him, who else is on there? I like, Hilary Duff's mom is played by Paget Brewster, who I love.
Oh yeah, I do like her.
Emily Prentice on Criminal Minds, so she's great on there. And then she just also loves comedy though. So she was in season 6 of Community as well, which was definitely the worst season, but like I still loved her.
Did you see that she, like, most of her front teeth, those are fake?
No, really?
She posted a photo of it. Like, she had to get them replaced again. Like, she had to get a new front piece. And she literally took a photo when they were out because they have to be installed by a dentist, and posted it online. And so those are not her real front teeth.
That's disappointing because I did always like, I don't, I mean, how long has she not had real teeth? Because I do remember her from like 2005 to 2020.
I'm not sure when she lost them, but it was probably at least 5 years ago. Would be
okay.
But but it could be longer than that. I remember she posted the photo a while ago, so it was really weird. But she was all like, like, this is what I actually look like.
I don't know if this is the right image. Does she have like goggles on? She's missing some teeth, but not everything. Were they supposed to be completely gone?
They're like ground down or something. Like,
okay. Hang on, let me go to Google Images because this isn't showing everything. That's interesting. I had no idea. So she also, just really tying things in, Josh Peck is on there briefly on the show, and she plays his love, Hilary Duff's mom, but on Josh Peck's other show, Grandfathered, that was only like a season long, she played his mom. So they had already also worked together. I don't even think they had any scenes together in that episode. Paget Brewster's hair is also like gray. So it's weird to me to see like that's what she's naturally is though. So she's dyes her hair black. I guess I don't know at what point in time it grayed out, but that one she had, like, there was a picture that she had that was like short, and I'm like, you look kind of like Ayn Rand in this. Like, she would be a good Ayn Rand if she had to portray her in some sort of like biopic.
That's funny.
Missing teeth. What else did I not like about How I Met Your Father? The other problem too is hard because it's just like when my boyfriend was watching some of it, he was always more critical. But then I was like, I'm trying because they have, it might be a little woke or it might be, um, I'm just trying to like, I have nostalgia glasses on, like I'm aware of this because of How I Met Your Mother. So like I'm trying to, and I'm already going to be like, I'm biased, like knowing that like if you guys have an agenda, I'm going to pick up on that more. So I was like trying to be like, but I also might like try and project that too and see like, oh, that thing you did here was trying to be preachy. Like maybe it's not. So I was like trying to give the benefit of the doubt and trying to be like, okay, yeah, I have some problems with this. Some of it I'm trying to like uh be okay with. And yeah, like the Ellen thing, her being gay, like I don't think it's in your face. I think like it's just, hey, everyone's looking for love. And it just happens like hers are like kind of funny. Like she gets into like weird physical comedy, slapstick things.
Yeah.
And
Like she's so what's adorable about her is that how socially awkward she is. Like
yeah.
she's like so she's flawed, and I think that's part of the reason why she's not like there's a lot of this thing about in a lot of these shows where they in movies where they have the diversity, however diverse.
Oh, that they're going to be perfect or something.
They're going to be perfect, but she's human and in a funny way because they also have to be caricatures for comedy a bit.
Right. And I think oh, go ahead.
She nails that. I think it works.
That's why I think that's why she was able to be so funny at Second City, though, like compared to, I mean, like Main Stage was, overall when they weren't being preachy, they were going to be better than like the people who weren't being paid, and just on the small stages. But I think for her, she was able to, because all her characters were weird and flawed and everything though. And she might mention being gay and stuff, but she would do it like in a funny way. Like she talked about like the date she went on had yellow fever because like she only dated Asian women.
Oh God, I knew where that was going the second you said yellow fever. Yeah. I was like, oh God, that's so inappropriate.
Yeah, but she made that joke about herself because she's like, that girl had yellow fever, or whatever, however sassily she said it. But then I think they made jokes, I don't know, probably about scissoring or something. But she was willing, and I think that's what makes it funny enough is that like I'm not being preachy about how lesbians deserve the same equality, but she would just like, no, like here's like the funny parts about it, about being gay or just being in a relationship and that happens to be gay or something. So I think that's why she was able to like, she was just very funny.
Yeah. She's relatable to anyone who's socially awkward in dating, like on the show. And like, regardless of the fact that she's Asian or gay, she's still relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the line in the first episode too, where like they're hiding for the surprise party thing, and Valentina and Charlie are talking, and then she talks about like, hey, like I'm Jesse's sister, adopted, obviously, and Charlie's just like, it's not obvious to me. I don't know who Jesse is.
Yeah, yeah, because
like,
he's never met him.
Yeah,
yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about the boys now, or?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to think if there's any, and I'm also my charger keeps not charging my computer, so I'm scared that my computer's just gonna die at any point. So, let me see. Is there anything else about Hillary? Oh, I think other last thing too about the How I Met Your Father. It is. I think it's okay, but I think the writing falls flat a lot. Like I don't think the story beats are as good as like How I Met Your Mother, because like they don't set up jokes, or like they don't even like have bits early on, and then they kind of like are able to follow through later. And so it's just kind of like, why did they even insert this, or this wasn't a good joke, or it wasn't even a good setup for something later on. So just overall, I think the writing is pretty subpar, especially compared to the first. And I was trying not to do it with the nostalgia glasses, and that they are different shows, but I'm like, even separating it, I'm like, I would have higher expectations. Like I don't think you can separate completely. Like people will relate to it. And I think if
you're inviting that by the title.
Title. Yeah. So you expect something, and like, well, this like the style can be a little bit different, but like the expectations of just like, I think writing quality. So even if you're writing different things though, like just having like the writers be able to set up the same plots and jokes and things is important. So, and I think
Yeah,
that it just I like the pigeon episode. I thought that was actually kind of fun because like
that was funny.
that was silly of just like one pigeon in the window, like, oh, I brought a friend, and then they just get distracted so easily with their pigeon makeup and come back in, and there's just like dozens of pigeons inside. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like that would never happen, and it's hilarious that it did.
That's the kind of thing that would happen on How I Met Your
Yeah,
Mother,
yeah,
and that was see, it's the thing when you name the show How I Met Your Father, you're inviting your audience to expect certain kinds of comedy and level of writing and quality of
right.
performance. You are, and that I'd say the pigeon episode is where they really actually kind
Where
of
they're
capture
trying.
it.
Mm-hmm. But
But
then again,
other
like it focuses on those two, and for Hilary Duff, I'm like, I don't even really care about about your life though. Like it's just not
yeah,
you should have had this that like you're the star. Like you should have been the one that was like distracted by pigeon stuff um and and wanting to do
I
all that.
guess
But
when her teeth got messed up.
so, yeah, sort of, but even then it was like I don't know, like again, it's just the performance of like I'm just such like a girly girl. Like whenever I see like, oh, you have like such long nails and for any character, like that's fine if you're coming across like I am a girly girl though, but like if you're gonna try and be like they'll throw in stuff where like to make her seem weird, but it's just like like, oh, you kiss people with your eyes open, and like I like to see if they're enjoying themselves, and like I don't super buy it kind of like
Yeah.
like that would be okay if they could play into her being more weird or something, and not that you can't have like long nails for that, but it's just there's just certain things about like for a character that you they're just saying it and not really showing it, I guess is the big thing
Yeah.
though. So then I don't see her do like weird things like, oh, her tooth fell out, so like she kind of had to deal with that, but even her, like it was just kind of like I'm trying to do normal stuff, and but like she wasn't doing like the craziest things, even for her birthday episode too, where she's just like, I got this book nook and pretending that she reads and all like it just I don't know. It still kind of falls flat where I'm like, you're not that interesting to watch. The side characters are more fun, which
It's
is also okay. Like, because sometimes with TV shows, a lot of times you have like, here's the straight man as the main character, and then the other ones are fun. But the straight man might be like sarcastic or like funny
yeah.
somehow, and she's just more boring.
She is so basic, and I don't think they characterized her very well. Like she's not very well developed as a character. Like sure,
Hmm.
she wants to be taken seriously as a photography artist. That's as far as it seems to go. Like when it comes to who she is,
I would
like
they even talk about how like, oh, she's so optimistic and she's like bubbly and cheery. And when they said that, I'm like, is she? Is that what they're going for that? I'm like, that's fine. But it'd be better if they like played that up more, like that she really and maybe that would work more if she were more like ditzy or something. The show Young and Hungry with for Emily Osment, like she plays that like she's like super blonde, super dumb, but like but they plays into that really well and always bubbly and optimistic. Doesn't like jokes go over her head and all that. But I think that works. So it's just like, but you're going hard into this though, and so for Hilary Duff's character, it's just like, well, and I'll give them. I think it is season 1 and there are only 10 episodes, so, like, maybe they'll find themselves. It's just so far I've been underwhelmed
yeah.
as a
Well, I mean,
whole.
a lot of shows that first season is not actually that good. Like
Right, yeah, yeah.
honestly,
That's what I watched. I was rewatching How I Met Your Mother at the same time. I was going back and forth to try and see. I'm like, "Okay," like, that way I can compare, like, was this really any better or, like, and I like How I Met Your Mother finds itself too, though. For me, for shows, that's why I don't like them trying to cancel stuff before, like, season 3 because I think it can take 2 seasons for a show to really find it, for the actors to find the characters, for, like, the writers to get it. So, like, I'll give you 3 seasons. If I don't like you into the 3rd season, though, then I think, like, okay, this is a bad show.
I think it's especially true when it comes to sitcoms, which are more designed about around the idea that
The
the audience
situation.
is gonna the audience is gonna love the characters what in wacky situations. If they
Mhm.
don't love the characters, then the wacky situations aren't gonna keep them around.
Right.
You
Right.
know, like a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't watch that show. I hate that character. Like I like literally can't stand that show just because of that character." Like but I think that's more true of sitcoms than it is, like, which is weird because it is called situational comedy, but it's not situational comedy about random people. It's situational comedy about these specific people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would include that in the situation too, though, that it's like the situation has these people that you like. And what was I lost my train of thought on it. Oh, Veep. Again, like I mentioned it too when we talked about senior year, the one guy, but like Veep, I hated all of those characters. And my boyfriend was mostly watching it. So I guess I didn't like sit through it, but the only character I liked was Richard T. Splett on there, though. Like he was so fun, and he was the reason why like I will stick around, like I will pay attention because I love him so much. But everyone else was just like intentionally terrible. But I'm like, but you're so unlikable, and I know you're supposed to be, but it turns me off from wanting to watch it because like you're not redeemable.
For me, with How I Met Your Mother, it was actually Barney and Robin that kept me around.
See, like Robin, I think Robin and Barney are really like they are a good couple. I'm sad that they did not last in the end, but I thought like even early on, like they went on like a bro time and so she went like laser tag and all this too. Like she has fun. Like, yeah, that's totally like they were good together. They were better together than Robin and Ted, I think.
They were.
But so they were fun. Like even when they were engaged and like they're like, oh, we have our own shenanigans that we're getting into, and all. Like, yeah, you could totally just have your own series together. And,
I would have watched that. Honestly, I would have because I loved both of them. They were both so funny. Someone asked, was it GMan? Is there any kind of crossover between How I Met Your Mother / Father, or did that name, or did they name it that purely for brand recognition?
There is Robin.
There's multiples actually.
Yeah, the big one. I don't know if I've paid attention to all of them, but the big one is when Robin does show up at the Hilary Duff's character Sophie goes to McLaren's, because I guess the other thing is that they are in the same original apartment, not the two girls. The guys are in the apartment, and which is just like the side friends. So, but I'm like, I don't know why they chose that I don't know why they did that. And but so they have the original apartment, they have the swords. They're like, oh, the previous tenants left these swords here. And then Robin ends up coming in, I think on the last episode, she's in McLaren's by chance, as like a famous news reporter, and then talks to Hilary Duff's and gives her some life advice.
Yeah, there is. And like Hilary Duff's character even recognizes her. She's on the news. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have Robin's like, I have fans.
Also, the captain and the boats.
Oh yes, yeah. Which I was sad about.
Why do you keep bringing up these people who care so much about boats? What's with this couple?
I was disappointed that they wrote that whole story thing for them, because I was like, I really wanted them to make it.
Me too. I did too.
And then she ends up talking about how she hates boats. And I'm like, what? Your whole marriage was a lie anyway.
Yeah. I bring her up, the boats girl, every once in a while.
Me too.
When people like repeat a word too many times, I'm like, boats, because that's how it feels to me.
I think about it. She was also the star in the Legally Blonde Broadway musical, is how I recognized her when I saw her because I think I watched the musical I don't remember at what point, if the full series was out by the time I watched How I Met Your Mother. I can't remember now, but because it was like around that somewhere around those years where it was ending. But and I had watched the Legally Blonde musical, I think back in high school or something. I don't know, online. But anyway, yeah. So those are fun characters though, and I'm just disappointed for them. But yeah. Any other references? I think that's all I can think of right now.
That's all I can think of too.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I have to say then on that show. We got it out of the way. I'm likely, if the show continues on, I will still watch it. Like, even whether I'm like, I don't love this, but like I watch a lot of bad TV, so it's just what I do.
I'd watch it while I'm playing video games.
Yeah. Oh, I always multitask when I do stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'll watch and especially something I don't have to pay super close attention to, so I can multitask. I'm like, yeah, that's this type of show.
I started watching the second season of Westworld for the first time today, and I was trying to do it while playing video games, but then I kept having to like wind it back. And I was like, I can't do this. This one I need to watch.
But I was getting into The Boys now. I had to do that a couple of times, and I wasn't like intentionally, because I just had duck things going on though. But some of it, I'm like, oh, I just missed like a word or something. Like, what did they say? So I had to like rewind because I didn't hear.
That's a show you cannot watch while you do other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Boys you have to pay attention to, because a lot of it is about the imagery, which
right? Yeah. So
makes sense because it's based on a comic book.
Right.
So like, yeah, sure. Part of it, like, I mean, just look at Homelander. He's basically, you know, an American flag threw up on the Aryan race.
Yeah. Okay. So season 3 just came out, and I want to talk about the show without going into spoilers, because I have just started the beginning of the series though, because Alex had told me the other day, like, season 3 of this show came out, so people are talking. I'm like, I've never bothered to watch it. So, and I would have watched more, but again, 5-hour round trip driving yesterday, Doug stuff, chicken stuff. But so my boyfriend had watched the first season a couple of years ago, I think, when it came out, and I only like saw glimpses. And I think I even asked him, where like, would I be interested in this? I don't think he thought I wouldn't be, or if I didn't ask, I just thought I wouldn't be, because they're like, oh, this seems more serious. This seems like, to me, I just kind of pictured like, this is a show that's going to have like a bunch of sex scenes for like no real purpose aside from just like wanting to show like, oh, they're having sex scenes to write it. Like, that type of show was kind of like what I assumed it would be. But I had no idea like how much like the main people, like, wow, these heroes are all assholes, like they're downright evil. And I'm like, I didn't expect, I thought they were like hero. So the whole concept of the show is totally different than what I had assumed it would be. And my favorite improv teacher in Chicago, I think he actually loved this comic series too, though. So like, I only vaguely knew from that, and then just the glimpses that I'd see on the TV, I just thought like, no, this show seems stupid. But episode 1 really, really hooked me, because it was just like right off the bat, where I'm like, the guy's talking to another girl named Robin. So like the main dorky guy. So immediately I love him, because he's just this like skinny white nerd. And like, okay, and then and the girlfriend comes up, and part of me was kind of glad she died, because as soon as I saw her, I was like, I don't think I really like you. I don't think you got. So it's just, and then, but the way she dies, so I'm going to spoil season 1 because it came out in 2019, but like, she just like explodes. And he's holding on to her hands, and I'm like, holy fuck.
And they did it in slow motion.
It was slow. So I didn't realize at first, where I'm like, why is like the hair is blowing, the skin, like blood's coming on. I'm like, wait, where did she go? And then realizing
he's mid-sentence talking to her, and then suddenly she's gone. It's really fast, and then it goes into slow-mo. So it's already happened once it goes into slow-mo.
Yeah. And then you're just seeing the after
It's like, from many angles they show what happened, and it's so disturbing.
Yeah. So it was unexpected. I mean, like, part of it could be expected, where I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, did she get hit by a bus or something? Like, because I'm like, yeah, you are kind of standing on the street here. It seems dangerous. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, that is graphic. And then his reaction too, and he's just like calling for her, and like, that's so sad too. And because like, when it happens in a blink of an eye, and you're like, your brain doesn't catch up yet either, because you're trying to figure out what happened. And he's just holding on to her hands. The rest of her is gone. And like, that's horrific.
So I watched this with my best friend when it came out, and we were sitting next to each other, and during that scene, and they're having their conversation, and he goes, she's standing in the street. She's standing in the street. Get the fuck out of the street.
Yeah.
He's standing in the street. So we both know it's something.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. I'm like, why are you there?
And it was, honestly, it made it really funny. But like, there's no way you can expect that. Like, you can expect something
something is going to happen. but that was
not that
that's
specifically.
what happened with me. Yeah, because it was just like, okay, what's going to happen here? And then especially like right mid sentence of him saying like, don't besmirch. Who was he talking about? Billy Joel. Yeah, don't besmirch Billy Joel. And then like, and he even talks about. So I've watched the first 3 episodes, and him talking about how like that was the last thing I said to her, like that she died. Like the very last thing she hears is me like, don't you ever besmirch Billy Joel? And then, which I actually like. They're having a cute moment. I guess if I'm gonna die, like that was a romantic, cutesy moment.
He was joking. They were just cheesy.
Yes.
But the thing is, though, about that scene is that is the aperitif. That is not like that is huge, but that's not the only time they do something like that. They go graphic like all the time.
When I was trying to watch it first on Amazon, I'd started it, and then I think it was it last night, and I was like, I can't watch this right now. Like I'm too tired. Like I think I probably put on How I Met Your Mother. I'm like, I need something that I don't have to pay attention to. Like I can't get invested into something right now. It's been a long day. So then when I watched it today, or whenever it was, and so the 2 nights ago, I guess. And the first, this is, I don't know, it's just so engrossing, and again, I lost my train of thought. That's right, season 3. So when I was trying to like go back to play it, it went into season 3 first and played the beginning, and I was like, what is it? Is this a commercial for? I'm like, oh no, they're just recapping everything that happened in the first 2 seasons. So like that's why I'm confused. Like let me back out. So I just saw a lot of people exploding. What it looked like they were exploding. So I'm like, I have no idea why or how this is happening, but it is very graphic. So I'm like, let me go and watch episode 1 now.
Well, see, the thing is that one of the reasons why I like this show is that like a lot of movies and TV shows, they have violence in them, but they don't actually show just how like bloody violence is, because they have to like tone it down and stuff. And it kind of drives me crazy because it's like people have this like unclear idea of how much blood people pump out when they're injured. And so to me, I'm sort of like, when blood is literally raining everywhere, when people like something happens and they are covered in blood, I'm like, yes, that is more accurate. Thank you. Like the beginning of the movie Gangs of New York, the Daniel Day-Lewis one, pisses me off because they have literally a battle on the snow and there's almost no blood on it. And there's like tons of bodies on the ground. And I'm like, that fucking snow would be soaked. It would be red. Absolutely red. And so to me, I'm sort of like, yes, I know it seems like a lot. And it only seems like a lot because
we're not used to.
Exactly, because there's years and years and years of them underplaying how bloody everything is.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that, like, I don't think, I'm not sure if I think that there's a lot of blood, but like what happens to them is so graphic. So I'm trying to think of like how I feel about it. I'm like, oh, because I watch horror movies and even like horror anime stuff too will get very graphic. So it was just like, okay, I'm fine with how much I'm seeing, but it was just some of the things like the way in which it happens has been unexpected so far.
Well, and that's one thing I do like about this show is, and they're still doing it now to this day in the new episodes, is that they're like, okay, so how exactly does a regular human being and a superhero work in physicality? Because they underplay just how strong superheroes are in almost every medium. Like if you could lift a car, you could punch your fist through someone's face. I'm sorry. So like stuff like that. And that's what they're essentially showing you, is that like if someone like, for example, in the first scene when Homelander and Queen Maeve foil that armored car robbery, one of the things Homelander does is he throws a man up into the air who then comes crashing down onto a car. That guy's dead.
Yeah.
He's not getting up. And to me, like, watching that scene, almost immediately, I was like, he's not a good person, Homelander, for doing that. Like, like a lot of people are like, oh, is he good? No. Did you not see him throw here's the problem with him doing that. That is excessive force. If you want to talk about excessive force, that's excessive force, because the guy can't do anything to Homelander. So Homelander could very easily, like tie him up and have him arrested, but he doesn't. He kills him. He literally kills him.
That's a good point. I think I did not say I was probably doing duck stuff at the time, so I think I missed that one shot there though, because I wasn't sure later on until was it the end of the first episode or
Yeah,
like
it is.
I
That's the
figured
end of the first
I thought what's the blonde woman's name who's like the director or whatever is her name?
Oh,
Mallory?
no, Mallory's the CIA woman.
Oh, that's the name. Okay, so I don't know too much.
Yeah.
That it starts with an M or something, all right? Am I just mixing
Wow,
those
I
names
can't
up?
remember that character because she was only in season 1.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah.
But so whatever it is, blonde woman. Hi, tree surgeon. Welcome.
Works for
You
God.
haven't missed much. I talked about how terrible farm life has been for my poor animals. We talked about How I Met Your Father, which no one else but us has watched, and now we're talking about The Boys, the TV series on Amazon Prime, The Boys. So that woman, blonde, whatever her name is, she kind of reminds me, and again, 3 episodes in, sort of Kamala Harris, because of just like she has like the fake smile thing going on where she talks and stuff too. I'm like, man, you're not sincere about so like or like everything you're saying though too. Like you like sound sincere, but it's weird to sound like the actress is good because it's like a good tone of like you kind of make it sound come across as if you sound it, but we know that you don't mean it though, and so it's just like this cool dynamic of just like
she does
knowing.
do a very good job. I do remember that she did great, but yeah, I like a lot of the show is actually, so we've been talking about how graphic it is and everything, and a lot of people are like, oh, superheroes but evil, that's not a new concept. Well, the show is based on a comic book, and here's the
That's
thing.
been around longer.
Yeah, here's the thing about the comic book versus the TV show. The comic book is worse when it comes to the kind of things that they show you. So like the first
as far as like
episode,
graphic stuff, or
yeah,
okay.
and the things that happen to people, it's worse.
Yeah, even again in the first episode too, where Starlight, where she gets the I just said the term earlier, but I keep forgetting, quid pro quo by the other hero, and makes her so like he threatens that he'll tell people that she attacked him if she doesn't give him a blowjob, and I'm like, wow. And
No,
so like
see,
again, like
and
all these heroes are assholes.
so here's the thing. In the comic book, she was gang raped by many members of the superhero team.
God.
So it's worse.
Wow.
Now, Tree Surgeon says first season had potential, but the second season was insufferable. I love the second season, absolutely, because it's satiristic of the woke, and I love it. They nail them to the wall, especially corporate woke. They really go after them hardcore, and it made me laugh, and it made me so happy.
I am already seeing like, oh, they hate, like I like the setup of like, hey, these heroes, they're being controlled, like that they have to, a lot of it like, oh, we're already filming everything, we're preparing what this, and it's about like what looks good because it's what makes money, and it's what, so it's like it's so corporate, and like they talk about that all the time, and like they're showing it in such a bad light of how like, are we heroes or you're just here to be part of like the corporation. So I think they're setting that up pretty well. And just as far as like, like Starlight, like you're going to be like the only good character, I guess, as far as the hero team goes. In the comics though, you said of many people are there more than the 7 that she works with? Was it like non-main people that she gets raped by?
I just don't want to like spoil it for anyone who's not read it, but like it's like all the male team members.
Okay, so it is as far as okay, geez,
yeah.
Okay, but I've already figured too that like they're all pretty terrible though.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like Tree Surgeon says that wasn't their intent, but the thing is, is that there are no sacred cows in politics or culture to the people who are creating the boys. So yeah, they are going after everybody. Like, and I'm cool with that. Like, if when South Park says we'll go after everyone, and they're like, we can't pick favorites, that is actually wrong. I have way more respect for that than I do for someone who will just go after one side. So to me, the fact that they're willing to like hit hard on everyone, but their attacks on woke corporate bullshit were beautiful, honestly. And they kind of attacked this idea of white privilege just beautifully in this one scene in season 2. Like a lot of people they did misread it, and I laughed at it because I was like, it's so obvious to me that they're basically saying that what the guy is saying about you being privileged over him, like, is not true. Like, it's clearly not true. But like, it's hard. Satire is one of the hardest mediums to do, though. Like, if you're doing, like, satire pisses everyone off, like, all the time. But it's my favorite form of, like, if you're gonna do commentary, that is the way to do it in my mind. But it doesn't work with most people.
Yeah. Huh. Oh, well, I'm excited to get to that because I don't know the references yet, though.
I know.
I'll come back with my opinion once I finish watching everything, though, too. To see, like, do I think that it was satirizing, or were they just intentionally trying to be woke? At this point, though, like, well, I mean, I'll say that, like, Starlight One, I just like her name because I love outer space things by the background here. But and two, she it makes sense for the character because she comes from Iowa, so she does seem like, oh, I'm supposed to be a little bit more conservative. Because I was wondering for a minute when they're like corporatizing, trying to say like, oh, like now you're coming in, you're changing, and so they just gave her the new outfit that she doesn't want because it's more showy, and I was like, oh, is this like a woke thing, like a feminist thing of them trying not to make her very feminine? And so I was trying to like figure out, I'm like, because like, am I bothered because I'm assuming that they're trying to do this, or like, but her character probably just is more conservative than that, like, so she doesn't feel comfortable with this. So like, so I think it works for her. It's not necessarily just like feminism and we hate anything looking girly or sexy, though, because I was like, I like the new outfit too. I like her old one though because it had like the stars and stuff, but like,
well, I think
new one's missing the cape.
Yeah, I think that one is about sexualizing her without her wanting to be sexualized, which is, to me, like, a lot of people go, well, what's the problem there? And it's like, well, okay, from a conservative perspective, sexualizing could be considered wrong. There's an argument for that. There's an argument from the feminist perspective to say that sexualizing her is wrong. And there's, to me, the argument that, well, it's her choice whether or not she gets sex.
Yeah. And like, that's what I was trying to see. That I was like, okay, it's just her personal. And I don't mean conservative as far as like as political, but just as far as like she grew up, she might have been from just that type of family where like I'm not as flashy and like sexy, that type of thing. So that's what I was trying to like, let me step out of my biases of what I'm assuming why they're writing this or not, and just trying to think like.
Sometimes when it comes to sexualization equals empowerment for women, I find that to be bullshit. Like, I don't necessarily say that it's wrong, depending on the woman. Like, if the woman wants to do it, then fine. Then sure, it's empowerment to her. But saying that that's empowerment.
General, it's hard to, because you're generalizing everything.
Yeah, like, no, like, more it's like, sort of like in Afghanistan when the Russians were there, they told women they couldn't wear their
hijab.
The hijabs. And then like later on someone else was in charge and they said you have to wear them, and it's like, and like I mentioned that to a male friend, and what I was going to say, and he ended up saying it before I could get the words out because we were in agreement on this, is that it should just be their choice. And, and that's what it really comes down to. But right. That's not a gender issue. That's like just a general, everything like that should be your choice.
And that makes sense as far as like, then there isn't an empowerment for having that goes back to individualism though too. Like you don't want to empower a certain certain group of anything, because like it's hard. What works for one person might not. That like someone feels more confident wearing something sexy, and that's great. Then that's empowering for you. But someone like, I want to wear like a full, dress wear, something that covers everything, and I feel very confident in that. Like, okay, like if that's genuinely true for you, though, then that's empowering for you. Like whatever works.
And I say that about men too. Like if men don't want to take off their shirt for a movie or something or whatever, they shouldn't have to. Like that's like, I have heard like Chris Hemsworth did not want to do the shirtless scene for Ragnarok.
Oh,
And
really?
like, no, he didn't. And Taika Waititi literally said, "No, man, you got to do it. Butts in the seats." And I was like, dude, if you had said that to a woman, you would have been canceled so fast. Yeah. Like I felt like that was incredibly inappropriate. Like, honestly, I was not just because of the double standard, but because it's like the shit they put men through to get those shirtless scenes is just ridiculous.
I think I remember you mentioning something like on some show before. I think it was you. I didn't realize
it was probably
that,
me. It's one of my big pet peeves.
Like dehydrating for 3 days or something to get them. Like I had no idea about that.
Yeah. Well, that's why so like, to me, if a guy says he doesn't want to do a scene like that, or if a man doesn't want to be sexualized, he should have that option, like too. Like,
I will say, like, I do think, I thought the blonde the director woman is, where she was telling Starlight though too, because Starlight's like, it's my body, like my choice to do it, and she's like, it is your choice, but you just won't be doing that here. And I actually thought like that's fair though, like if you're going to be working with us though, like this is a requirement that we have, like we're in agreement though, like if you have a contract or whatever though, these are the things that you have to do.
If it was in the contract, then she has no room, right? And I would say, yeah.
and so I don't know, and I don't know for sure, like she also, but that's a big thing too, as far as like when I worked at Second City, they at one point, the one very socialist bartender was trying to start a union for it, and I just thought like, one, I'm usually against unions, and depending, like if it's like a very dangerous job or something, that could be helpful, but like a lot of cases they're just not necessary. I'm like, especially in a restaurant industry with a high turnover and mostly part-time jobs, like we don't need a union here. Like that's stupid. And like, if I'm unhappy, I just leave. Like most people, like I don't want to work here anymore, I'm going to go to a different sucky restaurant and work there for a while, and you continue the cycle, or you find a different career or something though too. Like it's just like not something to unionize. But so I guess like similar to, so it's just, but that's the thing of like, I'm going to leave this job if I'm unhappy with it. Like I'm also, but I'm not completely against people, like we want to try and make this place better. If you're going to try and stick it out and make those changes, I don't think I'm not opposed to that either, but I also don't think that like, you can request it, you just like, but forcing them to change for you though, it's like, well, it's their company ultimately though, like you can either try to convince them and change that, and if you can't, then choose to leave instead of like trying to bring in other things to like force that change.
I consider a lot of what it comes down to with labor versus employee, versus employer, is that it's a deal, and there should be some negotiation involved in that. If there's an industry-wide problem with how labor is being treated, then maybe they need to renegotiate and force. I don't believe that they should hold the industry hostage. I think that is totally wrong. But it should have some give and take. Like the employer has things they want from you, you have things you want from them, and if you guys can work out a deal, that's great. But like, for example, I was an adjunct at a university, and they have been adjunctifying positions across the board in academy for decades now. And basically that means you're a contract employee, but they make you teach the same amount of workload essentially as a full-time employee, but with none of the benefits and no job security. So you might not be invited back. And also your job, your contract being renewed is based on whether or not you complain to them about working conditions. Like maybe you don't have an office or working computer, or you don't have enough publication. They still want you to publish too. Like what? Well, I don't understand. They want you to do everything for nothing, essentially, is what it is. And then at the same time, if your students aren't pleased with their grades because they do teacher evals, but their teacher evals, you know that they're going to be affected by whether or not you're passing the class, right? So then so you basically end up having poorer education for it. So it's not so it's affecting the teaching labor in the fact that they're not getting good working conditions or good benefits or anything like that, but it's also affecting the ultimate service that the university is providing and giving bad service. So to me, I'm sort of like, it's in the best interest of the industry for the adjuncts to fight back at that point. Because I know, because I was inside of it, and it was like that at every college. It's not like, oh, I could go to a different company with a different culture. Like that wasn't a thing.
Right.
It's not really a thing in
academia. Yeah.
So
that's a big thing if the whole thing is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, if the whole thing is bad, then yeah, you guys need to band together and get some negotiations on the table. Like, okay, but I just think that unions, if they stick around for too long, they become monstrous.
That's I mean, a lot of teachers unions and stuff they
just become like for the people at the top of the union. That's all that's there. And so that's why I'm like, you get 5 years and then you better disband. That's my thought.
Like that. Oh yeah. Okay. Even so my last job, the one that I suggested that you might want to look into, they were really, although they got, oh my god, my goose.
I can hear that.
Just always yelling. Although they were they had some wokeness about them, they were really great though, as the and my immediate, or my department head boss, she talked about how there were certain changes that they were trying to do to fix something or another, but then she was just like, and then inevitably in 2 years when things don't last and there's a problem with it again, we'll readdress this. And it was just like, yes, thank you for recognizing that, hey, because in working in the restaurant at Second City though too, it's just we did this one thing to solve this problem here, and now it's done forever, and there's never going to be a problem with it ever again. And it's like, no, that's been a constant problem since then. And so just it was nice to have a manager recognize that hey, things aren't always going to stay the same. Everything changes too. Even if this works right now, if we change later on, we need to make sure that this still is applicable. And so that was just really great to have her even say, without being prompted, she was just saying hey, this is going to happen. And I think that's great. And something, so if the company's willing to work with you, and ultimately for Second City too, they were trying to push, and I didn't find out about it until a week and a half before we were going to vote. It was 6 months that they were pushing for this, and somehow I just was never taught. They were going around talking to everyone, and no one ever talked to me about it. So this was blindsided me. I was very against it because I just thought it was stupid and thought that's going to hurt us overall, though, because everyone was going to be forced to join it, to work there. And if you're already working there, I was no, this is bad. But ultimately they expected it to be 70% voting for it and 30% against it, because I went to the meetings and stuff that they had, so that way we can talk about it and try and engage, or try to work things out. It was just all of the employees, and when it came to the votes afterward, remember the general manager, because he was panicking and worried about it because he would have been fired and stuff too, and it was 70-30 in the opposite direction.
You can never predict those things. I love there's the thing about polling, and they were oh, we predict this, and I'm sort of who did you ask? There is kind of
people were secretly pretending that they
Yeah.
were going to vote. Like I even remember like they wore like pins and stuff, and like one girl was saying like told me like, oh, like, I just have to wear it because like they felt pressured that like they were being cornered in like the elevator or whatever, and like feeling pressured to say that they were going to, and so then they hated it.
Yeah, you can't. I don't know. Like, it seems kind of silly to poll people because it's like they could lie. They could totally lie, and also your demographics. You might be unmeaning to or meaning to, uh, you know, get a weird demo that is slanted. And here's the thing about that when it comes to like national polls and stuff is that like a lot of polls that are for in prep for like something big, they there's very few of them that are not actually a marketing campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that like I don't think a lot of people are aware of. I used to work in survey, so we cold call people and ask them questions, and sometimes they were political. And the thing is that like a lot of these were marketing campaigns. They were not actual polling. They were an attempt to sway votes. And
Oh yeah.
including the publication of the results is an attempt to sway votes because you want to move with the crowd.
Yeah, you're gonna like feel pressured to just say like, oh, if everyone else is doing this, then I want to too. And
Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh, I mean, I'm not surprised by that, but that makes a lot of sense.
There are some polls that are legitimate, but it's kind of like you kind of have to like really look at their methodology and who they're asking and who's paying for it. That's another one that you really should pay attention to.
So the guy that was trying to get it started, he was working with this one union though, and eventually someone he was I was confused by like who this other bartender, what side he was really on, like whether he was pro union or not, but because like he's like the GM had asked him to ask the bartender trying to do the socialist guy was like the democratic socialist was like, are you getting paid by the thing? And he answered truthfully. He said that, like, oh, I've, was waiting for someone to come around and ask me that. Like, but yeah, like they are giving me a little something to, so he was like trying to downplay it. Then like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense though, that like, of course you have incentive to try and do this because you're getting money. Like, I mean, I get it. That's very capitalist of you as a democratic socialist, but,
that is hilarious. I know.
like,
most people do something for some kind of incentive. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's most people are self-interested. Even if it's something not monetarily based, but almost everyone does something for self-interest.
And then when I heard that, like, I didn't care. Like, I just thought it was so. But as far as like the socialism thing goes, it's like, oh, it seems kind of weird. But
yeah,
looking back on that now, but like at the time, like I don't care that you are though. Like that makes sense to me. It's just the general concept that I think sucks. But like he was friendly, like even on the smaller group, like we would talk and like we would all be friendly with one another. There were other people who agreed with me who were very much like liberals and stuff. That they're just like the leftist, but not necessarily socialist or not necessarily wanting like that. They just, I don't know. It was just kind of interesting because I'm like, I never talked politics, but it was just kind of funny to like, oh, you guys, like we are in agreement over here, maybe for different reasons, but even talking to him, like we were all at least still friendly, and I appreciated that ability. Tree surgeon. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems hard to find that kind of like, we disagree, but we're nice to each other.
Yeah, like, yeah, he wasn't a jerk. And maybe you can maybe say too that it was just like, oh, you're being friendly outwardly though, like even if maybe you're annoyed or something, but like at least externally we were all being civilized and friendly. Cause like even at the end, I remember like, oh, we're hugging goodbye and stuff though. Cause it's just like, but like we weren't like hating each other. And I still don't even hate him. I disagree strongly with his politics and the idea, but like he was a really friendly guy. Like he was just a nice person though. Tree Surgeon said, I worked for UPS that is under the Teamsters, and I've seen people get away with crazy stuff, like a guy they wouldn't let be fired after contaminating the facility by kicking open a hazmat package. Yeah, so they protect. There's a point of like unions helping to protect people, but then like that are innocent or like that might be hurt or something. But then when it's like going too far, like, well, like you said, like after 5 years though, like you've probably gotten what you want, even with like activists now and stuff too. Like if you're trying to like for women equality and all these things, like we have, but like mostly it's all done. Like now you're just trying to like grasp at straws and like we're trying to find something to be angry with. And and so it's just ridiculous. Hi, Peter Lim. Welcome.
Yeah, the thing is about like I think it is against a union's best interest to protect incompetent people
Yeah.
because it gives them a bad
Yeah.
name. Because then we
For
have
sure.
we have ammunition against them. You protected this person that endangered other workers, and that's not for workers. Why did you do that? Like,
But then, and it would maybe work better if the unions, like, if they had someone to hold them accountable, because then it's just like once you're in power, you're there forever. So then it's like it doesn't matter, you can protect everyone. And but if you're like, hey, this was bad, like now we're able to like negotiate or say somehow that like that you're not welcome here now, and that would be helpful. But like it's always a thing of like once you have power, you can't do anything about it. So
yeah, it corrupts people. It absolutely does, which is why I don't think anyone should hold any position of power for very long.
no, especially politics too. I think that what was it? For a while, sometimes I was saying like I think anyone who wants to go into politics, you can only be. I think on the nice end, I was like 4 years at a time, and you can't be because then that way like you're accumulating like whatever power and connections and stuff. I think on the more extreme end, I was just like 4 years total. If you're like in whatever you're doing, you get 4 years. It's your chance to be in there, and I don't care what position you have. Once you've done 4 years, you're out. You can't do anything else.
Well, and it's not just like politicians that are elected, but it's also kind of these positions that are long term. Like you think about it from a corporate perspective, there are a lot of really big companies right now who've had people working for them as CEOs and major directors of projects that are screwing up left and right all the time on the project, not on the social side of things, where they're like, oh, they like having sex with a lot of women and people think that makes them a bad person. Not stuff like that. I'm talking about like they screwed up the projects.
Right.
They've, or they violated the law with the company, like by doing something that they made the company do something that it shouldn't have done. And it's their responsibility. It's on their plate because they're the CEO. And so but they stay in their positions and they stay in their positions. You have to literally have like a Me Too accusation to get them out.
Right.
And, and it's like, that's not, no.
But they do that
because they're bad at their job.
Because they do it with anyone. And again, back to like politics too, though, like that, where that's how you get people out of power, though. It's like, they hear all the terrible things that like Cuomo and whatever, whoever else has done. But like, but we need to get him out. Like, even if they're like the bad guys trying to do it, they're just like, well, Me Too him. And like, that's an easy way. Like, we don't have to get him on anything else. But I guess it's the same like any justice system stuff too. It's like, well, we can't get him on like all the murders, but we'll get him on this technicality because at least he'll be in prison or something. But
well, and I think when it comes to this stuff about getting people on something like Me Too, which the public is behind, versus getting someone like out based on what they've actually done that was wrong. The reason why they go for something else is not because, oh, it's easier. It's because if we got someone out of their position for what was actually really bad, we would have to look at all the other people who did the same thing
that's
and
fair.
get them out. And they don't actually want to kick those people out.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
You have to be careful. Like, everyone hates this, so we can call them out there. But we're keeping everyone else that we do like in, so we won't say anything
yeah, exactly.
Tenomad says they don't just stay, they get recognized and promoted for doing that.
Yep, they do. They get awards and lauded. Like, I mean, what was that? Cuomo has a book on his.
Oh yeah. Tour now, and but everyone does, like any kind of celebrity thing too. Like what O.J. Simpson saying, if I did it, like, let me tell you, I didn't do it, but if I did, this is how it would have happened.
Jesus, yeah. But then, like, I mean, and I think that's a lot of the stuff that the boys actually tries to talk about is these people who are just really entrenched and hard to get out of. Like the woman at Vought, she's kind of a monster, and
is that the blonde one?
The blonde woman.
Okay.
Yeah, and she won't get out of her position. Like and they're totally cool with everything she does because she makes the money.
Well, that's what I thought. So I'm just spoiling the first 3 episodes because that's all I've seen so far. But, where she was telling the guy, "Have a safe flight," the one that she, like, was able to convince, and because, like, she was able to get him to go down in the payment because he was, like, kinda blackmailing her. So then I thought, like, "Oh, okay," and she said, "Have a safe flight." So I thought she was the one that was like, "Oh, something's gonna happen to his flight for sure," and I thought she was the one that was doing it. So then when Homelander comes as like the main hero and just like, destroys the plane, and then she was surprised by it and she like has to talk to him. I'm like, oh, you weren't involved in it. I just assumed, which I was kind of confused about too. I'm like, you just got the deal. Even though it was like a little bit you didn't like it, I'm like, did you dislike the deal so much that you wanted to kill him, or but then she wasn't involved, so I was actually surprised that she was innocent of that particular
Well, and if you
thing.
think about, though, the superheroes themselves represent the idea of entrenched people who do
Mm,
horrible things, but they make someone money, so they get
right,
to stick
right.
around.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You
that's their
know
whole and
that
they're making money too, so, like, that's why they do.
they don't
It's kind
care. They know that they are doing horrible things, that their ability to mitigate their collateral damage is non-existent, but they don't care because they're making the money. And it's
right.
like that's pretty like if you're talking about things that are going on in the world today, that's pretty much what's happening both in the corporate world and the political world. And it's really like just hard to stomach. Like you're like,
Mhm.
how do you even tackle this? And and satire is a way to do it, like honestly.
Yeah. I don't know. So far I am really enjoying the show because 'cause I'm just, like, curious to see, like, where's this gonna go exactly, and also it actually reminds me of the anime My Hero Academia. Um, I don't know if you've heard of it, but,
I've heard of it.
so it's a show about high school superheroes that they're trying to become pro heroes, and but it's just the boys is way more graphic, obviously.
Yeah.
And then but even like the compound V that they have, at least in the first few episodes here, is that enhances like the superhero powers to some extent. Like they have something like that in My Hero. Like there's an issue going around that like so it powers them up, and it's been a problem with the villains and stuff. And so it just kind of thought like, oh, I see some similarities here, as far which makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad to be to use those because it's just kind of like that's a classic thing of like you're already strong. Like let me. How do you enhance like all
Well,
these
it's like
powers that can
athletes
be
using
dangerous?
steroids.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only just to a much more detrimental to the world potentially. Um, and uh, yeah, I don't know. So I like both of them. And My Hero, though, they at least have like the heroes are more heroic overall. That like that they care more about like helping people out and doing things, and it's not for
Yeah.
them. My issue with the anime though is that because they have to be pros to do it. Like so, the whole thing is like there are legal issues and all that too. So that's why like you can't go and save people without having like a permit or having the license to do it though, because it's bad. And I'm just like, I dislike the regulations on a lot of things though, because even like Starlight too in The Boys, where she's just like that girl was going to be raped, so I needed to save her, and then like oh, but it can look bad if you're only seeing this angle and blah. Like yeah, it's risky. Like that type of thing could be risky for anyone. Like that is realistic that someone could get in trouble for that. But it's also like, are you doing the right thing because of the way it looks for you of like what it's going to show, or just to help actually save a person? And there is the risk that like yeah, that could end up backfiring and hurting, even if you're trying to do the right thing, like that can totally hurt you. But I am just also bothered by like government regulations though, for like you can't save people, you can't stop someone from hurting others unless you have a permit to do so.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
uh,
That's distasteful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that part of the plot bothers, and it's there like there's it's happened like once or twice at least though that I've seen so far in the anime, but like when I get past it, like there's a lot of good parts too though that I love.
Tree Surgeon just mentioned One Punch Man, which is an amazing anime. It's so
I haven't
good.
seen it all, but yeah, yeah. I think what deterred me initially though too, and which I'm still just haven't gotten into, and I know like everyone says how great it is, but then it was just kind of like Well, if he's perfect and just does all this, like, I like watching growth. I like seeing someone get stronger and like being able to like, oh, you're overcoming the challenges and all that. And I understand the point of Punch Man, but then it's just because like that's what I enjoy though, is just like you know, the
Well,
underdog.
I wouldn't say that his arc has anything to do with his actual power level. Like
It's
it has
it's character growth.
yeah, and navigating the bullshit of the world of One Punch Man,
Right.
not his actual skill level. His skill
Right.
level is actually perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of people are like over stuff like I don't know. I think it's really hard to address in art a lot of topics that we have to deal with these days because of the fact that artists do a lot of thing where they, especially narratively, where they build something. They build a sandcastle, and you hate that sandcastle. In the real world, you hate it. It pisses you off. Everything it represents pisses you off. So you're like, well, this sucks. Well, so you give up on the story that you've been paying attention to. But then they come over and they knock over the sandcastle at the end of the story, and or they say this, or someone goes, the sandcastle is poison. It's made out of toxic material, and it's like and I don't think a lot of people realize how often that happens in narratives. That if you're addressing an issue of today, that they may be building it first to knock it down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People, are you saying that like when people get upset by something, like how dare that they bring up this issue though, like they, because you're
Yeah.
not even allowed to talk about it, like, or they're showing it that it seems good, like, well, maybe in the end they'll show like that, like this doesn't work out and that this is bad, and like maybe it's not immediately, there's not the immediate
Obvious.
gratification of saying like this is terrible, like, or but so that way you see you don't just have like going back to How I Met Your Father, where it's just like you don't have a perfect lesbian character where nothing happens. It's like, no, like it's comedy, so like you have to have bad stuff happen to her. That's what makes it funny. So then when you're building the, you know, the sandcastle and stuff too, that's just like, yeah, this is terrible, but we need to see it in action first, so that way
You have to
you see how bad it is, and
yeah.
then like, because you might know in real life, but like within the show itself, like you want to kind of explain that.
Establish it.
Mhm.
Yeah. You need to establish first that it exists before you can knock it down. I felt that way about Loki. uh,
Mm.
and the TVA. Like I was like, wow, these people suck. Like from the
Yeah.
first episode.
Yeah.
First episode, I thought they sucked.
Immediately, I'm like, this seems like a terrible world to live, like that, their lives there and
Yeah.
stuff too. I'm like, that seems just awful. Even if they weren't writing it to be bad at the end though, I was like, what a sucky play. I was hoping that they were gonna like, this has to be bad, but
But
like,
they were building a
uh-huh.
sandcastle to knock over. They were.
Right.
And
Yeah. And I thought that was good.
that's why I think you can't, when someone's establishing something in a narrative, you can't necessarily judge it from the first episode to say that this is where they're supporting this by showing it. That's not hardly ever true. Like good writers don't always don't do that, because of the fact that like the point is to show you that this concept is bad, like, you know, or is questionable in some way, you know,
Mhm.
that in the wrong hands it's not a good thing. Like there's all the best work does this, like honestly builds a sandcastle to destroy. The thing is about a TV show like The Boys, though, is that like you have to have the sandcastle exist forever. For as long as the show exists, the sandcastle has to exist. You
Yeah.
know, you can say that you can show that the sandcastle is bad. You can fight
You just
against
keep
the sand,
fighting. Yeah.
but you have to keep fighting the
It has to be there.
sandcastle.
There has to, I mean, like, especially in a superhero thing, there has to be bad guys.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but everything to make a story, you need conflict. That is just by
Yeah.
definition, else it's an anecdote. Um,
Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
yeah. So I just, But yeah, and then and it's good too where you're just like, I dislike this thing. Like, yeah, you should. Like that's the point of it being the bad thing. But I guess like in today's that they don't like stories because they just want everything to be shown. Like, here's what I'm preaching to you. This is everything that's like perfect ever. And the only bad guys that you can have are like white men being, you know, supremacists of some sort to whatever minority group. And if it's not that, then everything else is wrong.
I know that sometimes when I think writers, especially in TV shows, do a misstep where they have their bad guy win too often and win in impossible situations. And that pisses people off no matter what you're trying to show. Like, honestly, it's a sign of bad writing, of a failure, of a misstep, a major misstep. They did it in Avatar: The Last Airbender, honestly, with Azula. She was unkillable. Like,
I did not like her.
Well, and no one's supposed to like her. No, that's clear. But she wins too often is the problem.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, I can still like I love Zuko even before they kind of made him more of a good guy.
I did too.
because again, like we were saying earlier, he's characters that are flawed. So like when you show like the human side of things, and it got more like once he became more of a good guy. But like Azula, they kind of later on sort of showed like they had high expectations of her, like she was the better child to the parents and stuff too. So I can kind of see like, all right, I kind of get why maybe like you were this, but it was just like you're too strong, and it just gets annoying though. Like you're not relatable. Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't work for plot, honestly, that she wins as often as she does. She needs to win as often as she does so that the story continues, but they don't write it well mechanically because they literally made fun of one of their missteps in that Ember Island Players episode.
Where they
where they have her surround her. They surrounded her, and she like in the Ember Island thing, she like, look over there, and like runs away or whatever. Because it's like, yeah, how did she get out of that? Like, like they were.
And that was during the play, right? That was at the recap.
But that it was a recap of what they actually did in season 2,
right?
It was frustrating. And that scene was a major.
So that they acknowledge it.
They acknowledge how bad it was. It was a very bad episode.
That I do like that play too, because there are just other things too, where like they did Jet and really dies, and even the main characters are like, wait, did Jet die? I thought they didn't know for sure what happened.
See, a lot of people like GMan called it a filler episode. I've heard it called a filler episode a lot, but the thing is, though, is that episode actually addresses that it's them admitting things that they maybe didn't do quite so well. Like the fact that Katara is a little weepy and says the word hope a little bit too much.
Oh yeah.
Like that was their episode. Like they needed another episode. That is absolutely true. But it is also the episode where the writers said, we know we fucked up in these moments, and we're sorry.
And I think that's awesome too, to just kind of like, yeah, at least like we're already thinking it, so like you are acknowledging it. That's great. And I also love too, because like Toph is just played by that big bulky man though, and she's like, wait, that's the cool. So she's just super excited.
She's just so happy about it. She loved it. I thought that was hilarious.
I love that series.
It was one of the best TV shows ever, honestly. And the series finale is just perfect. And that's so rare.
So I'll say, and I'm not saying this specifically, but I think I don't remember if I was reading or talking, whatever it was, about like, I think I was reading some list or article about how characters who won't kill off like the ultimate bad guy though, or something though, but and I don't think this way for Aang. It's just reminding me of it though, because it's like you'll kill off like the bad guys, lower ones and stuff, but then it's like, oh, here's this thing, I'll give you a chance, like I can't do it, I'll let you repent, but like we can't. And it's like, why? You've killed off like all these minions and stuff too. and Aang's character works out because his whole, which I thought was kind of lame. I'm like, nah, I don't care, like beat it, like they're terrible. But for his character, I think that works out because he was all about like he wanted to be more pacifist, and he wanted to try and be peaceful. So him always trying to do it, that find a way that's like not ultimately going to destroy someone, like that made sense.
Well, I think part of it wasn't just about not wanting to end someone's life, but not wanting to have to take that action for himself, like from his
from
own
him.
spiritual point of view, like how that might harm him to do that to someone else, which is to me honestly like something that's not addressed enough when we talk about violence, is that like when you there is a psychological impact from doing something violent, like.
And in The Boys, the Frenchie guy in the second or third episode, like he acknowledges that too. He's like, I think about that woman in the elevator and like what her life was and stuff too. Like, and I think about her all the time. Like she was the first person I killed, because he's killed a lot of people for, I guess I'm still kind of confused what he is. Like he's just he gets hired to kill. He's sort of an assassin, but in like figuring out how to kill superheroes, I guess. But I don't quite know everything.
Know what Surge is. He's Frenchie / Surge.
Okay, I just know him as Frenchie. I think so fun. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, like you're not a psychopath, but you like, so like this does take a toll on you to some extent, and I wonder about that for myself, because to me, I talked about this before, how like I can't kill animal, like I'm so bad, like I'm able to do some bugs and certain things, but like anything else, like the concept of me, because I think about it too, like if I'm gonna step on an ant, and I just think like you're about to die, like you will no longer exist here, your life is gone, like, and just for my own mortality, it terrifies me. So I'm just like, if someone did that to me, if I get run over by a superhero on the street or something, like, so it might be a little bit less of them and just like fearing my own mortality. But like, so I think about that, and like I can't kill this ant, but I have also thought too that like I would have no qualms at all, like if someone is threatening, or like if they're in self-defense, I will easily shoot. But it's also for a human though, because like they have the understanding to be able to like you're doing this intentionally. Like an animal, I would still feel bad if something's attacking me though, like I'd feel bad killing it, because it's not like the motivation isn't to like I'm evil and I'm, it's gonna be first degree. It's that it's instinctual, or they're hungry or whatever like that. Like, yeah, I still want to defend myself, but I'll feel bad. But for a human, I just don't think I would feel very bad about that. Like if I feel the need, like that means you're trying to kill someone else though. Like you're threatening to some whatever enough physical
severe
force.
bodily harm.
Yeah, that I feel comfortable in doing this, and I just and I've never, and I hopefully will never have to deal with that. But so far, like, just like it's trying to be mentally prepared. Like I just don't have an issue with that concept though, because I think they've made their decisions to do that at that point.
Yeah, I know. I do agree on that, and see, I guess to some extent, there's the idea of the difference between self-defense and vengeance. Like, because I've seen some people do some really horrible things in revenge. No one's an active threat, and they've done something, and they do something very violent in vengeance. And I know that it makes for great TV, it makes for great movies. I'm totally there for that when it comes to story. But when it comes to reality, I'm sort of like, this is not good on most levels.
See, and that's where I think, and probably where I get a little bit more maybe it'll sound that I get more psychopathic or something, because I kind of am okay sometimes with, and I guess I waver, like I go back like on certain things, go back and forth on like an eye for an eye. So like even I'm kind of okay, like you murdered someone and like maybe it was intentional, and there wasn't a punishment for you, and the person like wants to like I'm kind of I don't know if we're gonna get banned on YouTube for saying it, like, but I'm kind of okay with the idea of vengeance, of like, hey, like an eye for an eye sort of thing. But it really depends on like, do we know for sure that this person did it? That was like, there's a serial killer, like, and 100% that they've done this thing. And then and even for a serial killer, like, that they're still a threat, like they're going to continue to do this later on though, too. So I would still say like that potential threat is, and that one's a little bit easier, but like one murder, like you killed my child or something, and like, you're not currently a threat, but I'm going to get rid of you. Like I have more, I have trouble like really arguing against that though. Like I
I
don't think I feel that bad.
I honestly don't either, but I think the difference I'm trying to convey is maybe the thing that bothers me is when people are sadistic about it.
Sure. Yeah.
That to me, I'm like, you don't have to be sadistic to like and even Buddhist monks have said that, well, yeah, I'm a pacifist, but if it is more harmonious for me to take this person out of the universe, I will. Like,
Oh.
so I mean, and it's like, well, that I Buddhist harmony kind of argument, text could support that. Like, I totally, like that makes sense in a way. So, like, even in bringing it back to Avatar, he could have killed him and it been
And it
for the
wouldn't.
greater good, and it wouldn't, and it would have been for the better harmony, which was the what was that previous Avatar? Like, there was an airbender he talked to, right before previous Avatar he talked to that said that
I can't remember now.
essentially made that argument that like it is more
Mhm.
hard, like it is
Right.
and I think the Kyoshi said it, and
Is that an
she's
airbender? Oh, I thought
she's the
that she's the Earth
earthbender.
one.
He spoke to her and an airbender, and the airbender said that the avatar has more responsibilities than just their own spiritual well-being. But then like yeah, Kyoshi said that it's more harmonious to take him out, so just do it.
I am hesitant though to say anything about doing something for the greater good. I've never liked that, even when I watched like
Yeah, I
Charmed
know.
as a kid though, because it was just like, and I liked that, and without really fully understanding like my own values and things too, where they even argued against like the elders would tell them like that you're doing this, like that you're fighting for the greater good of greater good, and they have to like kill this innocent person for the greater good, and like, well, and even before that, but I was like, that was a really good part where it's just like, well, you can't do that though, like that's you're taking
Yeah. Like, is it the
so
difference between this innocent person or the Fire Lord Ozai who's planning to burn
right.
the entire Earth Kingdom to the
Uh,
ground? Like,
I guess that's what, yeah, and I think maybe I'm saying just like the phrase "the greater good" because
yeah.
you can be very specific on Ozai is definitely a threat. Like you can give examples of like why he's a threat and why like you're not just generally saying like, oh, everyone will be happy like for the greater good. Like no,
Yeah.
he is a threat right now currently, like, and so I would actually consider it still self-defense at that point when you're like
Yeah.
overall like you're in charge of this. I think you can still argue self-defense for it. um but then like anytime it's just kind of like, well, we do this because it'll end up being better for everyone. But like, well, who's everyone? Like who, this is this
Yeah.
judgment,
Well, I
like
mean,
how do you get to
we heard that a lot in the last 2 years. Why don't you just do
Mhm.
it for everybody else? Like, I totally like get what you're saying there, because it's not
Carter talks
actually
about
a
it a lot too.
really, I know it's not actually a good argument, like to say that you do these things for the greater. No,
Mhm.
you got to explain
Yeah,
how. You have to establish that this is bad, this action is bad, or this
build that
action is good.
sandcastle.
Yeah, you have to establish this, and then you have to explain how it impacts people if I do this or I don't do this. And like, you have to explain that that result is more valuable than other things. Like, this is like, to me, there is like, and Carter, I think Carter would agree with me that there you have to establish these parameters for that argument to work.
Right. Yeah, and I think everything, yeah, it's contextual though too. So that's why, and I think that then when you're saying greater good, I'm like, yeah, that's subjective though. But if you're giving these examples and we're agreeing on that too, or and just again that if it was self-defense, like that is, uh, if we all agree on definitions by that though, like I think yeah, I'm. That's why I think it's just using that this particular phrase of it. Though, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's talk. Let's make sure that we're on the same page here, like, specifically, and then go.
Yeah, it was
But
sort of like that movie Hot Fuzz. Every time someone said the greater good, it had to be repeated. Like, I
oh,
don't know
really?
if you noticed that.
I don't think I've
There's a
seen that
point.
movie.
Oh my god, you have to see that movie. It's
Okay,
so good.
okay.
But there's a part where, and it's memed now because someone he's like the greater good, and they go the greater good. Shut it! And speaking of which, it's Simon Pegg who is in The
Oh
Voice.
yeah,
He's his dad.
oh,
And there's
yeah.
a reason for that. There's a
My
reason
boyfriend
why
just told me about that today. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, Simon Pegg was hired to play Huey's dad, who is played by Jack Quaid, who's Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son, by the way.
I didn't know that. Oh.
He looks a lot like Dennis
now that
Quaid.
I think about it, I'm like, oh, that's why he looks kind of familiar.
Yeah. So but Simon Pegg plays his dad, and the reason why he plays his dad is because in the comic book, Huey looks like Simon Pegg on purpose.
Yeah.
He's supposed to look like Simon Pegg.
Are people saying that it wasn't on purpose, or
no? Like, some people think it's a coincidence, and it's like,
okay. Yeah, you sounded very.
It's not a coincidence. They did that on purpose.
Yeah.
It's sort of like how Nick Fury, the new Nick Fury in the comic books, like 20 years ago, looks like Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh,
I didn't know that. That's not a coincidence. Yeah, that's before he was hired to play.
I knew that they made him black, but I didn't realize that it was like they made him.
They literally went to him and said, "Could we make Nick Fury look like you?" And he said, awesome. "Sure, if I get to play him, if you make a movie."
That's amazing. I love that so much. Okay. But yeah, I like that Simon Pegg was because when I saw him as the dad at first, because he looked kind of like older, and it was just kind of jarring. I didn't expect him to be in this. They're like, why is Simon Pegg in this? So at first I didn't recognize him. Like, oh, that's him. Like, why is he in this? And so I think that's interesting. I don't really know why they would have chosen him to make it look like the son. But
Huey was not American in the comic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if that kind of adds something. Oh, and by the way, it is an Eric Kripke show. And he did Supernatural.
Right, which I love. So which I also think it took 2 seasons for them to get into that, because I was just like, this acting is terrible. Like, Sam was terrible.
He was. But like, so I always thought Eric Kripke would have made Supernatural a little bit more graphic had it not been on this. Yeah. And now I feel like I'm right because he did The Boys.
Yeah.
But like, that's why Jensen Ackles is in the new season. And
I've heard. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and Jim Beavers is in season 2 and season 3.
Was he Uncle?
He's Bobby Singer in Supernatural. And the funny thing is about that is that his character's name in The Boys is Robert Singer.
And his name was Bobby before in Supernatural. Okay,
that's Bobby Singer in Supernatural was named after someone behind the scenes called Robert Singer.
Yeah,
I know, it's like there's a lot going on there. But there's
I like that.
In the first episode when they introduce Billy, Carl Urban's character, who I have a huge crush on. Carl Urban, by
he's
the way.
Amazing. Yeah,
he's so good.
I love him as Billy.
Yeah, he's so good. When he introduced himself to Huey and he said he was from the FBI, I busted a gut laughing because I was like, no, he's not. I know Eric Kripke wrote this. And then it's like, oh, no, he's not. Like, I laughed so hard at that scene because I think some of the stuff he does is a nod to his Supernatural fans. Like, if you watch Supernatural, you'll notice some of it, but it's very light touch, though. It's very light.
I watched all 15 seasons of Supernatural, so
I got to 10 before I was done.
You bowed out. Like, no, I kept powering through. I loved Castiel. He was my favorite, and so I just kept powering through. And I loved, like, they had like such fun, silly episodes and stuff too that I thought were great. Like they did a crossover with Scooby-Doo. Like,
I never saw that one. I've seen photos of it like online and stuff.
It's hilarious. So just like I love shows that can be so playful about it, and so that they and ones where like you're taking stuff seriously, but then you can have fun. And I guess that's why I love my D&D campaign though too, where it's just like here right now we've got like even heavy stuff going on, but like the players they play it genuinely, but like they're still like doing a lot of jokes and bits, so like they're still like making light in it, but also I don't know, they have the gravity of it, but also have the lightheartedness still with it too. And I think Supernatural, I like that about it, where it's just like, okay, this part here is serious, but then other times we're doing something serious, but we're also going to make fun of how serious we are during this too. And,
to speak to the whole idea that I said earlier, that a good showrunner or creative mind behind a thing will keep like things on a good path writing wise. There's there's an episode of Supernatural where what's his name? Dean hooks up with a woman. Like he hooks up with women all the time by this point. Like it's normal for him. And then she has a baby, and it turns out to be an Amazon, and she's trying to kill him and everything. And after that episode, Dean hardly ever has sex with a woman he doesn't have a like longer relationship with. And I felt like that was very well done, that they actually had like him learn something from that moment. Things didn't like reset to how they were before. You know, he actually was like, well, maybe this isn't great, you know, to do like for himself, like not necessarily that like, oh, it's bad to treat women like this, but no, that wasn't really the impact I felt like that he had.
I love shows that have like arcs that really grow. I mean, I will say too, I love episodic sitcoms though too. Like The Corner Gas is one of my favorite shows, and that's so great. But I think what I have an issue with though is something that ends up kind of like building something and then resetting though, where I never finished watching it, but Silicon Valley did that. Because like I don't remember season 1 or 2, but it was just like they built something that was going to go somewhere, and then it ends up falling apart, and they just kind of like reset and it went back to the beginning. I was like, that's really upsetting that they ended up like not following, I don't know, following through, like making it bigger. iZombie is one that I really like. I know, and that was a comic at first, and I know it changed in the with the TV show. It made it more like procedural murder mystery thing for a while. But I'll spoil some where it's they end up building up the world. Like first it's just like, here's this murder that's happening at each episode, and then the zombie thing gets bigger, and eventually like the whole show, like it starts revolving like the world of zombies, and like they have to, so it grows and grows. And I really liked the development of that series.
I sadly never got past season 1 of iZombie.
So I love detective shows, so I just kept going in. But like if you ever give it another chance, it does get into like how do they work in the world of humans and stuff too, and their dynamic, it just it gets to a head and stuff too, and I liked it expanding and like getting bigger. iZombie, what's another one? Silicon Valley didn't do that well. There's another one I was just thinking of. I lost it, but anyway, yeah. So I appreciate writing like that, where you can like really develop something, like especially that you've had planned, instead of like Lost. I've heard both things. I'm like, there's no way they did not plan where they were going with that like that. And if they did plan, then that was just bad writing, like because that was just silly. As much as I love certain character like Jacob was great, and I love Mark Pellegrino, but it was just, and there were certain parts to it that I liked, but when you went to the ending, I'm like, what's happening here?
Like I think the end was planned, but the stuff in the middle was a mess. Like honestly,
I think like the very end, but then it was just like even what they were explaining was just kind of like to get there. I'm like, you didn't know exactly how, like what was going to happen. I think if they knew where they wanted to get to, and I think they should have known like the why and stuff more. And I don't think they knew that. So then when they're just trying to like fumble their way through and then make some pieces though together at the end. So it was just like, nah, this feels weird.
I don't consider J.J. Abrams to be that good of a writer, honestly. I watched all of Lost. I watched all of Fringe. I loved Fringe for the longest time, but he sets things up and he doesn't follow through on them. He's like, this is mysterious and interesting, and then he never answers the fucking question. He just does this all the time, and it's really annoying. I found The Force Awakens to be really pathetic. He was one of the big minds behind that, and because it's basically just A New Hope again. But with some, they're like, ooh, who's her parents? And you know exactly where like most of it's going. And then Rian Johnson came in and derailed the narrative paths in The Last Jedi. And I was like, that was a mistake. Like I didn't like where it happened. Yeah, I did not, because J.J. Abrams called away to another project. But like I did not like the narrative paths that The Force Awakens set up, but you can't then just veer off of all of them poorly. Yeah. And then on the third movie, veer back onto them. That's why those movies suck, is that it's like, I'm sorry, but the first one is pretty pat and, you know, typical. And then the second one is a mess. and has no story continuity with the first one, and then the third one is more like the first one, but still it's like, oh, you still have to deal with all this
Disjointed and
bullshit. It's
yeah.
so disjointed. I really don't like it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's again, like if you have a full story, it's bad to like keep the person who the idea is like keep them going though. If you get rid of them, like it's just such a bad idea. Like we'll figure it out, like whatever it is. Like if you've got some problem in real life with the like you just need to know going in ahead of time that like this is we're gonna need to make sure that we get on the same page and we can work together for all of these because like we don't want to change.
There's a really famous, so J.J. Abrams is behind the new Star Trek movies too, which is stupid. But like, it's like there are two different minds and tones behind those two franchises. It's really weird to get the same guy to do both. And the problem with J.J. Abrams is that he was on the Daily Show. You can find this because it's a funny joke, but like J.J. Abrams says, I was never really a fan of Star Trek. And then he goes on and on for a bit. And Jon Stewart says, this is a while ago, obviously, because the 2009 is when the first Star Trek movie came out. And Jon Stewart says in reply, I heard you say you weren't a fan of Star Trek, and I saw that your lips were still moving, so I assumed you were apologizing. Because you really shouldn't take a project like that if you have never really watched any of it or care about it in any way. You have to be somewhat of a fan. You can't just, it's just a project, it's just a job. It's, especially when there's this huge group of people spanning many generations at this point who care about this.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, like it works so much, but I don't know. This reminds me, there's I don't know why I thought of this the other day, the movie Bridge to Terabithia. So it was a book first, and the actress who played the main girl in it, though, was like a huge fan. Like she really wanted this part because she'd always loved the book, and like she really and I think that can just come across well too. It's just like if you really are passionate about this, like then you're gonna put all your heart into it, and then if you're not, then and especially for something that's already a well-known franchise and everything too, it's just like get someone who actually cares about it, or else like it's not going to be great.
Well, that's because these movies are not, they're not passion projects anymore. They're products.
Yeah, it's so corporate.
Yeah. Which is what, I mean, this is a theme that The Boys addresses a lot. This is why they make movies based on these superheroes, so that they can make more money.
Right. Yeah.
Like, they literally talk about the movies at the beginning in the first
They do.
scene.
Yeah, like, okay, here are these projects, like this is like the social media, like here are all the like they just talk so much about like, okay, how are we looking? What's the money we're making? Yeah, they right off the bat, I'm like, okay, I see now. Like again, I was just surprised by it, but I was just like, I see that they are going a different direction.
Because the two boys are talking about the movies, which movie is better. Like in the very first scene, that's what's going on. They're talking about it. Oh, Translucent's movies so much better than the Deep's movies. No, you're wrong. And like it's like you're talking about actual superheroes,
right? And at first I wasn't sure when it was just like, okay, is this a fictional thing? And then and I didn't know, I'm like, are superheroes not existing yet? And now they're going to, like, what is, like, I just didn't know the world yet. And so then it's like, oh, these are the names of people who already exist. And I'm like, okay, here we go. As far as writing and stuff goes, Johnny Boy Quickdraw said earlier that Babylon 5 is a great example of a show that was planned out in advance and executed well. I haven't seen that, but it sounds, if the writing is well done, then I might like it. Yeah, I don't think I've checked it out. Abrams is responsible for the Kelvin timeline in Star Trek. I don't remember.
The Kelvin timeline is referring to the fact that this is a different timeline than the original series timeline. So, and the fact that Leonard Nimoy's Spock literally shows up in that movie, and that is and the Romulans show up, and it totally disrupts the timeline. That's what happened, because Kurt's dad is not supposed to die at the beginning of the movie. That's not what happens in the original timeline. So that's their way, Sony's way of saying, we get to tell the stories we want to tell and make them canon without disrupting the canon of the previous titles.
Yeah.
That's what that is. The problem with that, though, is that they're bad. They're not enjoyable. Now, honestly, I think Star Trek Beyond is the best of the 3 that came out because Simon Pegg was one of the writers, and he is a fan of Star Trek.
Yeah, I don't
so
remember.
It has more of the feel of an actual Star Trek movie. And one of the ways in which that works is the fact that Bones and Spock have this sort of like love-hate relationship going on, which is from the original. So it's like, you know, they kind of like they bring back some of the more character-driven kind of content that was in the original.
Yeah.
And which is why I like Beyond better. Like, Beyond's not awesome. It's not even one of the best Star Trek movies. Like, if you were even going to list a top 5, it's not in there. Like, but of those 3, I think it's the better one.
I can't remember. Did I even know that there were 3? I think I probably have only seen the first one.
Into Darkness, which is a bad title, is the one that with Benedict Cumberbatch. And I swear to God, I had to just struggle just now to remember his name, because all the like fake versions of his name just popped up instead. No, and I was like, no, say it for real. But he's Khan, and like the thing in the everybody saw it coming from the trailers, honestly. But Sony's not the greatest at keeping their secrets when it comes to their movies. Like, they own the Terminator series, and I swear to God, every Terminator movie that comes out, they have to spoil it in the trailers. Like, they're like, "There's a trick, and it's going to be a trick, and that's how it's set up. It's going to be revealed in the first act, you know, or maybe the second act. But it's a trick, but we're going to reveal it in the trailer."
Yeah.
What?
Why? Now I don't even need to see it. Picking the best of the new Star Trek. It's like picking the politician with the best ethics. This is Johnny Boy. Yeah, I mean, I do like these actors, though, and different.
I mean, Carl Urban again. I literally will watch anything that Carl Urban is in.
Yeah, I have to go back on, because I think I have only seen the first one of those, and I'll watch. And again, I watch a lot of bad things, though. So if we consider them bad movies, then I should be watching.
Out here. You're like slowed down.
Oh no!
Suddenly.
Well, then it's a good time to wrap up, I think.
Yeah, probably.
If my internet is going down, then it's good. Okay, well then again, there's nothing tomorrow because Carter's been out with the coof, so he hasn't recorded any free associations. So we've got Sunday book club, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. A House of Leaves. I was gonna say How I Met. So like, wait, had the H is on there. House of Leaves by Mark Daniel Levsky. And Alex will be hosting that one. And then maybe we'll have Narrative Dissonance on Monday. I don't know what Carter's status is currently.
Me neither.
So that's to be determined.
We don't know yet if there's going to be Narrative Dissonance or Dangerous Thoughts next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed that he feels better.
Yeah. But anything else? Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. I gotta go check on these chickens, this rooster, these ducks, and geese keep yelling. So, well, thank you so much for joining me, Alex, and anyone watching this too, Johnny Boy. You're always here. I love it. And have a good Thursday. Have a good Friday, and have a good weekend, everyone. And again, happy birthday to Johnny Depp. I think he's like 59 or something.
I'm not sure how old he is.
I'm pretty sure he's a year younger than my dad. So, okay. Goodbye, everyone. Rolling end credits now.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you're new to Unsafe Space, Check out our deep content library that includes discussions with everyone from James Lindsay to Brett Weinstein. And please consider helping to fund our work by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on a variety of social media platforms, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space Discord server, which is open to financial supporters at any level. We hope to see you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production does not meet WHO health and safety standards. Please report to a United Nations Sanitization Center immediately. Association with the following individuals is strictly prohibited. Experts who benefit from printing money agree that printing money does not cause price inflation. Trust me, just 2 more weeks to slow the spread of monkeypox. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.